Like the intensity, the direction. They also make it seem like they didn't try to coup Chavez too, on top of Maduro. Like, I wonder why there's instability in a country that's constantly under mass sanctions. I wonder. Oh, people left with their feet. It's like, yeah, I wonder what happened there.
This was Nicolás Maduro and his wife just a few days ago, looking relaxed and smiling.
Un acuerdo de combate contra el narcotráfico. Estamos listos.
He tells his interviewer he's open to closer cooperation with Donald Trump. He has now, it seems, been deposed and is on his way to an uncertain fate.
Not war, just peace, forever, forever, forever.
Whatever the future brings, Nicolás Maduro may be remembered most for pictures like these. A leader who danced as Venezuela's...
Yeah, screw the Venezuelans and what they want. Listen to Schumer. Yes, unironic. Yes, yes. What you think is going to happen is wrong. And if you don't want to hear it, then, you know, you don't have to. But yeah, what you think, what you want to hear from me is, oh, this is great. They've deposed this tyrant, this ruthless tyrant. I'm not going to lie to you. I don't give a shit how you feel about the situation. First of all, it's my tax dollars going to implement this stuff anyway. So yeah, even from that perspective, your position is irrelevant to me. And it's not like the American government is even making an active effort to make it seem like you're a human being. They don't think you're a human. It's so crazy that people are trying to do this at a time when the Trump administration is openly saying every Venezuelan on U.S. soil is an enemy of the state. And there are still dumps in this chat being like, yeah, this administration that has presented every Venezuelan as an ever-present danger to American national security actually has my best interest in mind. They're not even saying that. So why are you doing that propaganda for the administration that's not even saying that? You're just making it up. You're just entertaining a false narrative, a false reality, one that the administration is not even presenting. It's utterly ridiculous. At least the dumb MAGA people, and I suspect many of you are dumb MAGA people that are trying to justify this action. So you're looking for like a liberal ass attitude around this action being justified. So that's why you're like, no, but the Venezuelan people, why don't you listen to the Venezuelan people cynically? It's all the dumb MAGA people LARPing as though they are tuning in from Caracas or some shit. Good response, guys. Surely this time they will welcome us as liberators, okay? Yeah, it's Reddit liberals that are brain broken with NatSec shit. And it's also Trump supporters that are obviously aware of the inconsistency here with their previous position of Trump being a peaceful dove president. So they keep consistently saying like, oh, well, what about the Venezuelan people? We've already seen this song and dance play out in Iraq, okay? They welcomed us as liberators. None of this shit matters. Say America first, then go America last, actually.
The economy sank deeper and American warships advanced on his country.
Not war, not war, not war. Just peace, just peace, just peace, forever, forever, forever. Peace forever.
His brazen swagger was with him till the end. Here a few months ago claiming he was bigger than Taylor Swift.
Soy más famoso que Taylor Swift en Estados Unidos ahorita.
But Nicolás Maduro will go down in history as the man who took a nation with enormous oil wealth and potential and left it ruined. For much of his life, though, he was in the shadow of this man, revolutionary socialist firebrand Hugo Chavez, who upturned Venezuela with radical changes in the early 2000s, nationalizing its oil industry and reducing poverty. Before Chavez died, he made Maduro his successor. But Nicolás Maduro had none of his mentor's charisma or popularity. He was despised by many in Venezuela's elites as a poor substitute. To maintain power, he would rely more.
This is funny because there is truth to this analysis, but it's pretty funny that, like, in order to shit on Maduro, they're hyping up Chavez. And at the time when Chavez was alive, they would say way worse shit about Chavez. Like, they're literally being like, oh, well, he doesn't have Chavez charisma. Bitch, you didn't think Chavez had charisma back then. What do you mean?
Or more not on competence, but repression. And his policies were disastrous for the economy. In elections in 2015, Maduro lost his majority in parliament, but he refused to stand down. In 2016, Maduro's fortunes took a turn for the worse, when the man who had become his nemesis was elected US president. Donald Trump imposed swingeing sanctions. The Venezuelan economy went from bad to catastrophic. 7 million people would flee its collapse. In widespread protests in 2017, more than 100 people died. Opposition groups claim thousands were also killed. by the secret police and in jails. But Nicolás Maduro appeared unmoved. Even after this, an attempt on his life with exploding drones in 2018 blamed on rogue elements inside the country. Behind the scenes, opponents were plotting, hoping for his downfall, led by this
rogue elements. I wonder who did that. Also, the irony is identifying that as rogue elements in the country actually justifies mass crackdowns. Like, is a country under the thumb of the CIA? Of course they're going to be paranoid.
man, Juan Guaido, who declared Maduro illegitimate and himself acting president instead. He was recognized by the US and others around the world. The Maduro regime reacted furiously, running down protesters and shooting at them in the streets. Guaido believed mistakenly he had enough support to remove Maduro from power. But a coup attempt that looked close to toppling Maduro ended in failure. The unpopular dictator clung on. His fortunes turned again, thanks to events halfway around the world, Russia's invasion of Ukraine. When the West stopped buying Russian oil, it turned to Venezuela and its vast reserves instead. Maduro was allowed back in out of the cold. That may have emboldened him to pull off one of the biggest election frauds in Latin American history. In elections in 2024, the opposition is thought by most observers to have won a landslide. But Maduro again refused to give up power, declaring victory unconvincingly. Then, in America, Donald Trump was re-elected. He branded Maduro a narco and sent a seventh of America's Navy to threaten him, the latest of America's neighbors to face the belligerence of Donald Trump.
It's just Venezuela. It has started with Panama, then with Canada, then with Greenland. It seems that President Trump, although he appears to be a pacifist, at least at the Western Hemisphere, he has a very, let's say, peculiar understanding of the role of the United States as a kind of overlord of the area.
Trump's campaign against Maduro has been unrelenting. A massive naval build-up aimed at first at Venezuela's narco-trafficking operations. At least 30 small boats destroyed, allegedly for drug running, but with little evidence to prove the claims. Then oil tankers were seized.
It's so funny that, like, half the shit that they're talking about Trump doing against Maduro is up to par with the same crimes that Maduro they're accusing Maduro of doing. Like, Maduro's worst instances, Maduro's worst moments are literally, bro, what? You sound slow? Maduro's worst moments fall flat when you think about the actual crime that took place in terms of kidnapping him.
Accused of breaking international sanctions. There was little doubt, though, the bigger prize was regime change. Donald Trump's rhetoric against the Maduro government showed no let-up.
We consider it.
Also, a week prior to this, he straight up pardoned the convicted drug trafficker, the former Honduran president, who is actually a convicted drug trafficker. Just saying.
Venezuela to be not a very friendly country. They sent millions of people, really, and probably a number in excess of that. And a lot of those people shouldn't be in our country, from jails, from gangs, from drug dealers, from all of the people that came into our country shouldn't have been in our country.
Hey, Venezuelans, y'all think this guy's gonna save you? I mean, good luck. Did you blast off on IG? What? I didn't. Why do you care? What the chatter? It's been 6 hours and 22 minutes since I went live. That's an insane question to ask me right now. I don't think I went blasted off on IG, but who gives a shit?
There's a lot of problems. And drugs.
The coming hours and days will be crucial for Venezuela, wherever they lead. Maduro's years of rampant kleptocracy leave the country racked with massive economic inequality. Its resources robbed, its institutions dismantled. Whoever takes his place faces an enormous challenge, putting Venezuela back on the road to recovery. Dominic Waghorn, Sky News.
That was terrible.
Nicolás Maduro's more than decade in power came to be defined less by governance than by defiance. Even as the drums of war intensified at his borders, Maduro was still singing a different tune. The leader was one of Latin America's most polarizing, loved and loathed both at home and abroad. But few foreign leaders opposed him as openly as Donald Trump, who accuses Maduro of being the leader of a drug cartel.
Venezuela's been a very bad actor. They've been, as you know,
The first time Trump was in the White House, he went after Maduro in the courts for narco. Trump 2.0.
What is going on? At least try to be professional. Can you stop the eating noise or at least swallow before you don't speak?
Looked more like this. At least 35 strikes since September on boats allegedly carrying drugs from Venezuela, and an offer of up to $50 million for information leading to his arrest.
Yeah, who gets that $50 million
Maduro
now?
rose through the ranks from bus driver to vice president under late socialist leader Hugo Chavez. Even then, relations with the US were tense. Chavez had nationalized the country's oil industry, kicking out American companies like ExxonMobil, cutting his citizens' poverty in half. Maduro inherited this legacy when Chavez died in 2013. He took the reins of a country with the world's richest oil reserves, something its people would scarcely have guessed from the poverty he led them into. They faced shortages in food and medicine while suffering under hyperinflation.
It's not enough. It's really not enough. So what I do is go to the store and buy a couple of things, and then you see you've spent all of it. Money flies away rapidly.
A video of Maduro eating steak cooked by the famed chef Salt Bae added to the criticism back home. Nearly 8 million Venezuelans voted with their feet, fleeing the country in the last decade. But his grip got tighter. The 2018 elections marked a turning point, regarded.
I like that the sanctions just never play a role in this conversation at all. Like, they're just not, like, the intensity, the direction. They also make it seem like they didn't try to coup Chavez too, on top of Maduro. Like, I wonder why there's instability in a country that's constantly under mass sanctions. I wonder, oh, people left with their feet. It's like, yeah, I wonder what happened there. It's just it's such a stupid way to make this argument. Like, you can talk about political repression, all this stuff, but if you leave out like giant parts of the story, no one is going to get educated on this.
It is neither free nor fair. Maduro refused to stand down, cracking down on protesters, calling on him to resign. Opposition leader Juan Guaido had declared himself president and was backed by the US and other countries, but he eventually fled to the US. And Maduro's political opponent in the 2024 elections was barred from running, Maria Corina Machado. She escaped in a secret mission in December to collect the Nobel Peace Prize for her work in promoting democracy in Venezuela.
I am very hopeful Venezuela will be free.
This is who Machado now wants to take interim control. Edmundo González Urrutia, the man who ran in her place in the last elections, while Trump says America will run things instead. But today, inside the country, where the streets are empty, many are waiting to see who, if anyone, emerges from the ruins of Maduro's regime.
Well, earlier I spoke to Phil Gunson, a senior analyst for the International Crisis Group, who's been based in Caracas for more than 25 years. I began by asking how he thought President Trump running Venezuela would work.
I don't know how it's going to work because what we can see, or what we appear to have witnessed since the early hours of this morning, when we were woken by loud explosions in Caracas, what appears to have happened is fairly significant operation, clearly, to blow up a few military installations, snatch the president and his wife, and take them out of the country. But so far as we know, there are no, U.S. forces left here in Venezuela. So it's not clear to me what Mr. Trump means when he says that they are here. I don't know who they are. The CIA is probably here, yeah.
Well, presumably the plan is to install Maria Corina Machado, but I suppose that what remains of the regime might have other ideas.
Yeah, I'm not even sure that Trump has it clear. He's been very unclear in the past as to exactly who Maria Corina Machado is. He doesn't seem to be able to remember her name. And when he was asked this morning in Washington about the possibility that the US would be backing the arrival of Maria Corina and Edmundo Gonzalez, who won the election in 2024. He was very vague about that, and he said, well, we'll have to see. And he mentioned the fact that there is, of course, a vice president in Venezuela, Delcy Rodriguez, who under the constitution here takes over in the absence of the president. So I don't think that the US, or at least Donald Trump, has very clear in his mind exactly what is happening or what's going to happen.
So what does the Venezuelan military do now, in your view? And what do the people of Venezuela do?
Well, the people of Venezuela are very prudently staying at home because not only do they realize that they can't guarantee there won't be another strike, but also because, the government here has cracked down very severely on any forms of protest. So nobody is rushing into the streets to celebrate. Particularly because everybody, I think, here is well aware that it's only Maduro who's gone. They may be popping corks in South Florida at the moment, but I don't think anybody's rushing into, celebrations on the street.
Living there as you do in Venezuela, do you feel a sense of anxiety, really, about the next few days and weeks?
Yes, I worry that the violence may not be over. The possibility that the military might split has always been.
I need you guys to understand. This is precisely the reason why China does operates the way that they do. Okay, like the reality of the matter is, you got Westerners in your country. They're in fucking Caracas. They get to talk openly about, like, they get to do propaganda from the heart of your fucking capital. You can't do stuff like this in China. Now, you can do stuff like this in America, but America was playing a very different ball game. Right? If you want to understand where, like, state repression comes from, it's for this reason. And it's ironic because like Venezuela has never really done it the way that most liberals present it. Unless you criticize Israel and the US, I mean, yeah, but you can still say some stuff about Israel, right? I'm just saying this is breaking New York Times about a Venezuelan official, at least 40 people killed, including civilians and soldiers in the strike. Wait, I thought they did a fucking perfect strike with no casualties. How'd that happen?
One of the objectives of Washington. The other possibility is that doesn't happen, that Delcy Rodriguez, the vice president, takes office, that the government goes on more or less as before, and possibly even worse, because it's quite conceivable that things will get worse for Venezuelans rather than better. And it seems to me that the path to what we all would like to see, or most of us anyway, which is a peaceful transition to a more democratic and humane society in Venezuela, political system, the path is very, very narrow and strewn with obstacles, much as it was before the bombing.
Might the military have already split, given that Trump has been boasting about turning the lights off in Caracas? That there could be some help being given already.
We know that US special forces are extremely skilled, but to come in and to snatch the president and his wife without apparently sustaining any casualties, or at least any fatalities, it seems very unlikely that could be done without some form of internal complicity. But I think it would be unwise.
Like, no country that has experienced this kind of thing would ever allow a person that is aligned with the other imperial superpower that just did this illegal act to continue doing propaganda inside of their nation boundaries. And I mean, no country, like America wouldn't either. Like, think about how much Americans lost their minds about, like, Russian interference and stuff in their elections, when that was marginal in comparison to what the fuck's going on here, right? The reason why I'm bringing this up is not to say, like, it's good that there's, like, censorship and repression of different sorts in many of these countries. It's more so to help you understand where these guys are coming from when they actually engage in this kind of action. And no, I don't actually believe in, like, a country that has intervened in the affairs, like Russia coming in and fucking killing Donald Trump would not be something that I favor at all, okay? The Tendi man says, wow, eating at a time like this, you're right, I should kill myself. How dare I eat?
The implications here are really great for the Israel. The event.
Wait, what?
The implications here are really great for the Israel. The Venezuelan people. 27. The implications here are really great for the Israel. The Venezuelan people. 27.
I mean, he ain't wrong. Is he wrong, though? Yeah, I think the implications are pretty great for the people of Israel. I mean, Venezuela. What did he even say? He said the implication here is pretty great for the people of Israel. I mean, Venezuela.
The vice president, Delcy Rodriguez, has not said that she is now the president, but I suspect there is a lot of discussions going on behind the scenes. We do have ties and diplomatic relations with these people.
Oh my God, it's fucking Brett McGurk again to glaze Donald Trump's foreign policy.
But a lot of open questions. So, you can have mixed feelings. Commend the professionalism of our operators. Commend the execution of this operation by the administration, done with secrecy and efficiency, but also have real questions here about what comes next.
Yeah, I think it's interesting how you say that that's where it really turned, was during that press conference when we heard from the first time from President Trump in person since this had happened. And he did say that we, the U.S., in his words, will be running Venezuela. And that did start to open these questions about what comes next exactly and how might that work. And I think that's where a lot of people are now, is how might.
Another servant of Israel, Brett McGurk, doing the same exact output. Oh, it's a brave, brilliant, incredible campaign. I mean, we have some questions about what comes next.
Going in for the to work in the oil industry. What might that mean as well?
Well, I sure hope we don't. I sure hope we don't put American forces on the ground to kind of occupy Venezuela. I do not think that would be wise as someone who spent a number of years in Iraq. But look, there is a government in Venezuela, and the first thing you want to do in a situation like this is a lesson from Iraq. You want to try to make sure the security services remain intact. You do not want to see a fragmentation of the entire state. That is how you get civil wars breaking out, and you have a basically implosion, a massive power vacuum. So I think it's wise to work with the elements of the Maduro regime who are still there and try to work through a transition. But, there is a legitimate government in Venezuela that we recognize, that most of our allies and partners around the world recognize, led by Maria Machado, which President Trump basically said she's not prepared to take power in the country. There's some truth to that because she probably does not have the loyalty of the security apparatus, which I just mentioned. Bottom line, Jessica, this is now extremely complex, and it's going to require deft management, a lot of quiet diplomacy behind the scenes, and we'll have to see where it goes. But I do think it's worth pausing to just commend our operators who carried out this extraordinary mission. This is difficult to do. I've been in the Situation Room in operations like this, not as complex as this, but they always carry massive risk. So commend the professionals. I think it's a good day for Maduro not to be in power in Venezuela and in an American jail. But now some serious questions about what comes next.
Yeah, I have one more question for you, but I do want to note I know you're seeing how
Biden's guy, by the way, if you want to understand what I mean when I say this shit is uniparty, if you want to understand it, this is it. That's Biden's own guy.
To confirm that for you, but that is what we are seeing right now. We are certainly seeing helicopters in the sky. We are just working to confirm if they are or are not on that. So we're going to keep watching that. But Brett, I want to ask you before I let you go, because again, I think this is a broader question that is at the heart of this, because the president and the administration have talked a lot about drugs and stopping drug trafficking. Obviously, a lot of these the charges that Maduro is facing are wrapped up in all of that as well. There's also the issue of Iran, Russia, and China, as you noted. And what is the connectivity there? If people are looking at this, again, from a global perspective, what should they know about those three countries and how they connect to Venezuela and how these pieces might fit together?
Well, on the one hand, if you do disconnect that trade between Venezuela and Iran, that'll have a real impact on Iran and kind of their economy, which is completely imploding. And Iranians are taking the streets to protest that regime in Tehran, and rightfully so. We need to support those Iranians in the streets. That'll have an impact.
Yeah, looking at what's going on in Venezuela, I think you guys understand, a similar thing that we have been attempting for decades in Iran. And you get to understand why some of these governments are a lot more repressive than they otherwise would be if we had like a free and fair society that did not consistently try to destroy and attack and kill and maim and murder and steal. How strange. Another oil-rich nation.
There is no country more powerful than the United States and its military forces. On the other hand, is the president perhaps now saying, we're going to focus on our hemisphere and not be as concerned in other parts of the world? And again, this is going to unfold over the coming year. I've called 2026, which we're in now, a hinge year of history when it comes to global power. And that's what we're seeing play out. Venezuela, Taiwan, Ukraine, Iran. It's all going to play out here over the coming months.
It's kind of chicken or the egg, though. The people might not be susceptible to trying to overthrow their government if their government wasn't so repressive.
We're 3 days in now, so we'll see.
Okay, why is the Chinese government not running into the same issues? Because the Chinese government has more economic power and have been able to actually materially improve people's lives. And therefore, people understand that while there is some level of social repression, political repression, they don't necessarily give a shit. Yeah, they deliver the goods. The only difference here is that you can't really sanction China and cordon off China from the rest of the world in the same way that you can for Iran and Venezuela. And when you cordon off China, or rather, when you cordon off Venezuela and Iran, you end up causing them not to be able to deliver the goods for their population. And in that process, people get more and more mad. The repression for protection, like the political repression to protect sovereignty, would be endlessly permissible in these countries if these countries were actually improving people's living conditions and living standards. Americans know this, and that's precisely the reason why Brett McGurk turned around and said, well, you see the same thing happening in Iran. The sanctions are working in Iran. The economic pressure is working in Iran. America understands this reality. That's precisely the reason why we sanction people. Okay? We sanction them, which is collective punishment. And the reason why we sanction them with collective punishment is so that we can cause instability. So that we can cause instability and have the population yell, get mad, get angry, revolt, riot, and have the government even implement further repressive forces in an effort to stop the riots from taking place. That's it. It's kind of like, America's been doing this, and America will continue to do this. No one is ever going to stop America from doing this. Let's be real. But like even in Venezuela, the greatest example of this is like you saw a faster paced version of this with Donald Trump. Donald Trump surrounds the Venezuelan countryside, right? The Venezuelan sea line or the Venezuelan coastline. Sorry. And then he says, I'm going to bomb the fuck out of you. Right. And then he turns around and says, OK, well, I'm either going to bomb the fuck out of you or you can escape. You can just give up control over the country. That's not a real negotiation. That's a threat. And sanctions work in a similar way, where basically they'll go, hey, either liberalize your economy, allow foreign capital to come in, and also, establish a puppet leadership, or we're just going to make your economy scream. That's not a real negotiation at all. There's just demands, and the demands are being pushed at gunpoint, basically. And after years and years of doing exactly that to Venezuela, obviously there was a lot of instability. A lot of people left. 8 million people or so left. And eventually we got to this point. And now people use the instability born out of the sanctions first and foremost, and some economic mismanagement as well, to justify that this guy needs to fucking be assassinated, executed, whatever, to justify the actions that we're taking in Venezuela. He has also openly stated, Donald Trump has also openly stated that he's just going to run Venezuela and that the oil is ours. It's bullshit.
The U.S. has carried out a series of airstrikes in Venezuela, capturing President Nicolas Maduro and his wife.
President Donald Trump has said his threats against Venezuela, the U.S. military buildup in the region, and the destruction of civilian boats are about alleged drug trafficking. But there's another issue Trump has been talking about.
The oil business in Venezuela has been a bust, a total bust, for a long period of time. We're going to have our very large United States oil companies, the biggest anywhere in the world, go in, spend billions of dollars, fix the badly broken infrastructure, the oil infrastructure, and start making money.
Yeah, it's true. His biggest gripe about Iraq was that the U.S. didn't get to keep the oil. The idea of an open society with less repression is that people can voice their discontent via legal means. By shutting off pressure valves people have for discontent, speech, organizing, voting, you channel what might otherwise be moderate. This is the mistake China made at Tiananmen, changing a reformist protest to overthrow the state protest. Repression doesn't work. Okay, but China is also literally a success story. And also, Venezuela is a story of having more liberal speech rules being an abject failure. This isn't to say, and for the record, I'm not saying this is my perfect design. You guys know what my opinion is. I like free speech. I think free speech is awesome. I will try to do everything in my power to preserve free speech in the United States of America. I'm just simply giving you an alternative perspective as to how these governments that we understand as repressive engage in acts of repression. Because between China and Venezuela, if you think that Venezuela is far more repressive in terms of stamping out discontent, stamping out dissent, allowing fucking any sort of like Western press to exist and operate within Caracas, you'd be wrong. Venezuela allows Western think tanks to operate in Caracas. Venezuela allows Western liberal journalists and Western right-wing journalists to operate inside of Caracas. Venezuela is an open society in comparison to China. Okay? This doesn't mean that Venezuela is as open about free speech as the United States of America is, but the reality of the matter is Venezuela is far more open in terms of its free speech, in spite of the ridiculous conditions that they're experiencing. They are far more open in terms of free speech than China is, right? And not only that, but they've maintained that. Are you honestly sure about this, though? Yes. That Venezuela is more open than China? What are we talking about? How many fucking Western news outlets operate inside of China, chatter? What the fuck are you talking about? Jesus Christ, I get it. You guys all want to fucking talk about, Maduro being the Latin Hitler or something, but Jesus fucking Christ, dude. Yes, Venezuela, in spite of its repression, which is far more repressive than America, is still far less politically repressive than China. Okay? But this level of control, this level of repression has actually been successful in China, and the openness has been unsuccessful in Venezuela. In any case, my point is that there is no country that is under serious threat or under serious warlike conditions that would ever allow political dissent to exist, okay? Especially when there's like active attempts to thwart the political process in the country. Venezuela's issue, in my opinion, in some respects, aside from Maduro being not the best, and currency mismanagement and things like that, Venezuela's issue was that they were unironically far too liberal in terms of prosecuting people who were straight up attempting to do coups over and over and over again. Okay? It is insane to me. You can say it's a crazy take all you want. Machado is not a new figure in Venezuelan politics. Salvojum. You know that, right? If you think the United States of America would have, let if you think that the United States of America would let another country get away with doing to it what it has done to Venezuela, okay, and would allow opposition figures to completely exist in free society, despite openly and outwardly, consistently fucking working alongside the CIA, consistently trying to thwart the regular political process. You don't have to agree with Maduro's ideology or whatever. I'm not saying that at all. But if you think that America would allow someone like that to survive, then no, they would kill him for treason. 100%. Like Machado, like people think about the people winning elections like having to flee or whatever. Machado was the opposition figure inside of Venezuela who won a Nobel Peace Prize while demanding that Donald Trump keep fucking bombing Venezuela. What are we talking about? That's insane. That's insane. Like, what country would ever be like, no, this is great. Totally. This is totally fine. Go ahead.
For the
if anything, and the reason why I brought this up is because, if anything, we're experiencing what happens when you don't actually prosecute former political leaders that align themselves with American foreign adversaries like Russia, who then actually foment so much discontent that they actually have race riots in the country, Charlottesville, and then they turn around and actually lose the election, but they don't want to give up power, so they also then do January 6th, an insurrection. That's what happens when you don't actually prosecute your opposition, okay, for actual crimes that they're committing. Trump, too, for this reason, is a direct, it's the responsibility of the Democratic Party. What you are experiencing here with Trump, too, is unironically what happens when you don't prosecute and punish your political enemies for doing crimes. Okay? That's it. Imagine believing China is pro-free speech. Wait, what? You have a bash keyboard name because you were probably banned here before gray name. You're barely worth this. I mean, China does not have American free speech. No other country has American free speech. Okay. An important fact that runs counter to a lot of conventional wisdom is that during Trump 1, a lot of those military officers he surrounded himself with were the biggest restraints on his warmongering impulses. That was what his comment about wanting Hitler's generals was about. Him surrounding himself with an army of ass kissers who have built their careers around rationalizing everything he does was the worst thing that could have happened in this regard. Didn't Hitler's generals try to do a fucking assassination attempt, though? Political enemies is a strong word describing Democrats in relation to Trump. Best friends, maybe? Okay, fair. But that's not what I was talking about. I'm saying that, like, Democrats present themselves as oppositional figures to the Republicans, right? You're not wrong, though. Yeah, apparently at least 40 people were killed in the U.S. airstrikes on Venezuela, including military personnel and civilians, local official says to the New York Times. Yeah, Venezuela currently has 303 billion barrels of crude oil reserves, which Trump says the U.S. now controls. Oil prices are trading at $57 per barrel, making Venezuela's total reserves worth 17. Even if the U.S. sells this oil for half the market rate, that's still $8.7 trillion. In other words, in 12 hours, the U.S. has gained control of oil reserves worth more than the entire GDP of all countries in the world, aside from the U.S. and China. That's 4 times larger than the GDP of Japan. Most people do not realize how much the world just changed. Oil markets will react to this news for the first time on Sunday at 6 p.m. Eastern Time. The next few days will be critical. You guys understand how we're talking, right? Like, this is plunder. This is colonial plunder.
Now, Donald Trump is insisting that the main reason he's interested in Venezuela, the main reason the US is kind of looking at tankers off the coast of Venezuela comes back to drugs, the trade, the smuggling of illegal drugs out of Venezuela. But what if it's not just that? Maybe there's something else going on. What if it's partly about oil? Now, on the surface, you might be thinking, why does America even need Venezuelan oil? And I can kind of understand your point, because if you look at just total oil production, look, this is up until 2005, the US was there, Venezuela was there, Saudi Arabia was there. But as you probably know, since then, everything has changed. Look, American output has gone through the roof, way above Saudi Arabia, and Venezuela has gone basically to the floor. And that's kind of post-Chavez, Maduro. They're one of the minnows now, and I think 21st biggest producer in the world. So again, that question, why should America care? Well, in the US, that big rise is largely down to this. It's down to the shale revolution. So you've got fracking all around the US producing extraordinary amounts of crude oil. And here's where we get to the interesting bit. Because when you're thinking about crude oil, maybe you're just thinking about, well, look, barrels of oil. It's all the same, isn't it? Well, actually, no. So if you kind of look at crude oil, there are various different types of crude in different parts of the world. There's actually kind of various different ways you can categorize it. But one way you can look at it is look at the kind of density. So you're basically looking at how thick that crude is. And when I say thick, I mean literally how thick. This is showing you global production broken down by the density of that oil. And so you've got the kind of medium stuff.
Venezuela has the fucking heavy. Venezuelan oil is thick.
And this is probably, if you've got kind of image in your mind of what crude oil looks like, it's a bit like this, you know, it's kind of black, but it's not too viscous, it flows around. But there's other stuff as well. So this is light crude. And it kind of almost looks like a smoothie, doesn't it? And that's the same stuff. This is still crude oil, but down to the kind of geological and the biological conditions in the ground when it was being formed, you know, hundreds of millions of years ago, it comes out looking a bit different. And so that's light. You've also got heavy stuff. And it's kind of relatively small in global production. But this is gloopy, super viscous stuff. Heavy oil. So heavy, medium, light. Remember that. And remember also, the key thing here is, you get it out of the ground, it may look like that, but ultimately, you still need it to go into, you know, someone's car, or indeed, you know, be turned into chemicals. Basically, you need to process it. And that processing, that happens in places like this, in refineries. And there are refineries all over the world, of course. There are refineries all over the US as well. There's kind of more than 100 of them. And if we kind of look at where those refineries are, well, so there's some in California. So the history in America, actually, historically, a lot of the early Californian oil, that was the heavy, gloopy stuff. And if you look at kind of some of the refineries in America, so here are some of the refineries. There's one in LA there. These are the 10 biggest. You've got some up here around kind of towards Canada. We'll kind of come to that in a second. But a lot of them are down there, kind of Texas, Louisiana, on the coast. And here's the critical thing. These refineries are primarily set up for heavy oil, for taking that gloopy stuff and turning it into gasoline and all of the other different products. But here's where things get interesting. And remember that chart I showed you a moment ago, the one which showed kind of shale oil and how it kind of went through the roof? The oil that's generally produced with shale oil, the fracking oil, that comes out of the ground mostly in the light form. So it's the smoothie. It's sometimes actually even clear. It comes out of the ground clear rather than black. And that's the majority of American production right now. Shale oil tends to be light stuff. And actually, that's kind of going back 10 years. Look at where we are now. Look at those bars. In the last few years, the amount of light oil being produced in the US has gone up and up and up, and the amount of kind of heavy stuff has gone down. But back to those refineries. They need to be fed. If America's going to have gasoline, it needs to feed those refineries with heavy oil. So if you look at the kind of imports coming into America, in recent years, even though America is producing so much oil, more oil than it ever produced before, it still needs to suck in loads of oil from overseas. And the type of oil we're talking about, it used to be, it's mostly heavy crude. It used to be only 12%. So only 12% of imports were heavy, gloopy crude. Now, it's about 70%. So 70% of the oil coming into America, which it needs to basically keep its economy going, is heavy crude. And where does heavy crude come from? Well, here are some of the big countries where you find most of it. It's Canada and Venezuela. There's one other I'll come to in a second, which we'll come back to. But it's Canada and it's Venezuela where you get most of this heavy crude oil, which is why, about to think about where those refineries are, they're mostly set up kind of, you've got some in the north there to get the heavy oil coming out of Canada, and you've got some around the kind of Louisiana and elsewhere and Texas to get that heavy oil that comes in from Venezuela. That was kind of the way they were set up. And it's really expensive to rebuild these things. You can't just chuck out a refinery very easily overnight. Some came from Mexico and the Gulf of Mexico as well, and that was pretty heavy too. So that's the picture in America. And the upshot is, even though America is producing more and more oil, the imports, this is showing you imports of oil into America, are still really high. And if you break down the...
Bro, my shit is gloopy and thick. Oh my God, Katie Miller posted about Greenland. Oh my God, I'm done. No more predictions, no more predictions, no more predictions, no more predictions. Oh my God, I'm done. Oh my God. Oh God. It's just all we gotta do. Oh, fuck, man. The trifecta. Let's see what China says and does. And then we get the trifecta. Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God. I need to up my aspirin intake. Yeah. So I can fucking have my shit less gloopy.
Those imports by the country that stuff is coming from, well, there's Venezuela. And it used to be a decent slug, actually more coming from Venezuela just about than from Canada, just at the turn of the millennium. But now look at what's happened since. Right now, Canada has gone from 15% of all of the US, 61%. 61%. And Venezuela's basically...
Don't worry, I'm covering my bases. Canada will be invaded. Facts. Okay? I got you.
Next to nothing. But here's what's tantalizing, and here's the reason I think that a lot of people are looking towards Venezuela and thinking, well, there's more to this than just drugs. Look at total oil reserves around the world. The higher these bars are, the more oil there is in the ground, so that hasn't yet been taken out of the ground. So there you've got Saudi, Iran, Iraq, all of the usual suspects. But the biggest of all, and this is according to various different sources, the biggest of all is Venezuela. And what's that oil? It's the heavy, tarry stuff that you might want to put into those American refineries. And there is really only one other place in the world that has a kind of serious amount of heavy oil other than Canada and Venezuela. And lo and behold, guess where that is? It's Russia. All of which is to say, you know, it matters what kind of oil America needs. It's worth just delving into these kind of nuances because that helps you understand a little.
Yeah, we need it.
Charred military vehicles and buses were still smoldering at daybreak in Caracas on...
How is China letting U.S. just take $17.3 trillion in oil? I don't want to talk about China, man. I mean, at the end of the day, it's like, what can you do, right? If America decides to fucking do something, if America decides to do whatever kind of like crazy militancy, what can you say or do? I do, however, think that if it's might makes right, and these guys don't actually make it more damaging and make it more costly for America to behave this way, if foreign adversaries don't actually protect their assets, if foreign adversaries don't protect their alliances and simply rely on America being less favorable around the globe, I think it's not going to work. Venezuela isn't an ally of China. People throw around the word ally whenever two countries are friendly, but ally refers to states signing a treaty to defend each other. China has only one such relationship, and contrary to popular belief, it's not Russia, it's North Korea, isn't it? But it's so stupid. This is bad. Please don't send me stuff like this. North Korea has a defense pact with China, but as far as alliances goes, or as far as like as far as allegiances goes, the idea that like China doesn't have any allies is fucking ridiculous. Venezuela is an important asset for China. That's precisely the reason why it's currently under fire. Okay? China has hundreds of nuclear weapons, if not more than 1,000 by now. A rocket force is very capable of hitting the U.S. homeland and impregnable defense in its own airspace. T.O. Sam doesn't pick on kids its own size. It only attacks countries that can't hit back. Yeah, I think this is silly. Okay? I think this is a silly attitude to have. It's 100% China's policies of not rocking the boat, which in moments like this turn into China allowing all of the effort and time and investment they place into developing strategic partnerships falling by the wayside due to American intervention. I love that Mehdi Hasan is saying this, by the way. That's crazy. If you're a country that doesn't get along with the U.S., the only logical move is to get nukes. Trump is fueling nuclear proliferation. That's crazy. Mehdi Hasan is saying things that I've been saying for years, and I would never have thought Mehdi Hasan would be saying that. Like, he is a lib through and through, right? Like, I get it. China's trying to trade max, okay? And China thinks in decades, if not centuries, whereas America thinks in quarters. Having said that, and look, I'm just a random dickhead living in the imperial core, okay? So I'm sure that the party apparatus has far better thinkers than myself. So I don't know what their calculations are. Having said that, however, I think this is ironically short-sighted. I'm going to be honest. I think you're wish casting a bit here. I mean, China's able to do in this circumstance really not much. They did do something. They sent a special envoy to Caracas to reaffirm their commitment to a long-standing alliance. And then America bombed Caracas 2 days after, while the envoy was still there. So the idea that China's not doing anything is incorrect. They are doing things. No, they did not. Yes, they did. Yes, they abso-fucking-lutely did. They did do that. They did. China sent a special envoy to Caracas 2 days ago. And there were talks between Maduro and the special envoy yesterday and the day prior. This was to reaffirm the strategic commitment and the partnership that they have between Caracas and Beijing. China already has a tremendous amount of investment in Latin America. So the very fact that they would just like cast that aside sounds silly to me. So I don't know. Here it is. I don't think that this is something that China can let slide. You know? Wild that Only hours before America captured Maduro, China sent an envoy to meet him, and just a few weeks before that, China issued a new white paper insisting on its role in Latin America. Both have just collided with the reality of U.S. power projection in its hemisphere. Yeah. The question is, does this cause China to just drop its investment in Latin America? Probably not. That's a tremendous amount of investment. Or what they do next. That's why I'm saying it's like confusing. China knows it has no allies because no country has any military to help. Their calculation is that they're on their own, and in 1 to 2 decades, they'll be able to solo contest NATO. China does not have the level of global military parity to the U.S. as the USSR did. The U.S. purposely did not try to do an operation like this for Castro in fear of Soviet reprisal. We can fawn over China's domestic development, and they have eclipsed the U.S. there, but they are totally bitched out on the U.S. when it comes to hard power projection. This is why I think it's a little bit off. It's a little bit on Europe. I think Europe as a market is not going to move away from being under the umbrella of American security, and they are far more fearful of Chinese dominance than they are of American dominance. Because if China could actually develop better relations with Europe, which I mean they are, but I don't mean just like straight up, more positive relationships with Europe. I mean, literally like have their European partners take a more agnostic stance towards American dominance, for example. Then China would probably have a lot more confidence in moving around the world, because then you can actually punish America. You can punish America and make American intervention costly. Because what I'm talking about is not to like literally go to war. Two nuclear armed nations are not going to fucking go to war with one another directly. What I'm simply saying is when America engages in proxy battles like this in order to forcibly decouple countries that China has made investments in order to gain leverage against China, when China has a lot more leverage over America due to being the manufacturing hub of the globe, they could have more diplomatic power over the United States of America. America don't give a fuck. I don't know if you have noticed. Yeah, well, RIP Bricks died 1/3/2026. Why do your YouTube title change for your channel? I don't know. I don't change them. So we'll see. Gold argues that America is still the bigger gun in the military equation. What? Guys, this is not about China going to war with America. What the fuck? There's a reason why America often shies away from direct entanglements with Russia as well. It's not like Russia's military power is comparable to the United States of America. What the fuck are we talking about? They're just crazy enough to actually contest American power, especially in their own backyard. We are seeing one of the examples of that in Ukraine. It's not about war. War in this day and age isn't necessarily about like who has the bigger gun. That only works if you are, fighting against a non-nuclear nation. Okay? War is about attrition and how much your population will take economic pressure. What's crazy is they wouldn't do this if Maduro was pro-Israel, but the exact same views in every other way. Probably not. Because all the other views that Maduro has would probably also snap in line if he was pro-Israel. Because the pro-Israel position in the global south is the clear-cut indication that you're pro-America. If Maduro is pro-Israel, he would not be anti-America. He would be pro-America. I would say the only country that's pro-Israel and anti-America is Russia and China to a certain degree. Whereas the consistent anti-America and anti-Israel position is only maintained by the Democratic People's Republic of Korea. That's it. So maybe Indonesia. No, Indonesia's anti-Israel, but they're kind of pro-America. I mean, they are still pro-America. They're a lot of these countries are leveraging their relationship with China and leveraging their relationship with America, but they're not like firmly in the committed camp. Oh, Iran. I forgot Iran. Iran is also anti-America and anti-Israel. And Cuba. I'm sorry. Anyway, Maduro did a bit of a lobby in favor of Israel back before 2006 until Chavez went madman demanding stuff to Israel. Even Israel upgraded our old F-16s back when early Chavez. Why would countries align with China if it puts them at risk of U.S. invasion and China wouldn't even provide support? It definitely makes more sense to align with America. The reason the Soviets were able to challenge America was because they supported their allies. No, I agree. That's what I'm saying. I think like eventually if all these other countries that are leveraging their relationships with the United States of America realize that America is not going to is not going to sit around and is just going to straight up fucking bomb them and shit, then yeah, and China's not going to do anything to make that more costly for America and engage in some kind of attrition, then eventually countries are not going to do that. I mean, they'll at most try to leverage their relationship, but it's entirely dependent on how much America wants to punish them for that. So I don't know. I don't know where this goes, but I will say, I mean, this is not like, I'm not going to undermine other countries that are simply trying to survive, but I will say a lot of them are fake demons. Okay? A lot of these other countries are fake demons. Like Khamenei tweeting, you know, we will destroy our enemies and shit. It's like, come on, big dog.
Saturday, as residents expressed shock after the US strikes hit military bases in Venezuela and removed President Nicolas Maduro. Many people stayed home as Venezuelan security forces patrolled the streets. Of those who were out, some express hope of political change, while people like Baker Franklin Jimenez concerned that this will create an even worse conflict than the one we have now, and that we all have to go out into the streets to defend our homeland, to defend ourselves. But excitement is in the air for supporters of the opposition, led by Nobel Peace Prize winner Maria Corina Machado outside the country. Venezuelans celebrated in Peru, with people like Milagros Ortega talking of returning home.
My dad, being a political leader in Venezuela, was able to see this change. He used to say, "Daughter, when you go back, when this government leaves, you'll return to Venezuela." And
U.S. Secretary of War to CBS, foreign countries will not have a foothold in the hemisphere where America is located. President Trump is the one who sets the terms for managing Venezuela's affairs and will be able to dictate what we will do in the future. I don't think this is like strategic posturing from China. I think China's lack of response beyond like condemnations is because America is just going to keep dominating wherever China wants to even engage in economic improvement, economic development. Ultimately, the goal is to have some kind of leverage over China. So if China one day decides to even threaten with the nuclear option in trade, not like actual nukes, but the nuclear option in trade being shutting off America's access to rare metals, which China has a monopoly control over, then America can turn around and say, all right, well, you don't have any oil now. Yeah, China said this. China is deeply shocked by and strongly condemns the U.S.'s blatant use of force against a sovereign state and actions against its president. Such hegemonic acts of the U.S. seriously violate international law and Venezuela's sovereignty. At a certain point, people are going to have to recognize that international law doesn't mean shit. And I'm sure the Chinese state knows that international law doesn't mean shit. And Venezuela's sovereignty and threatened peace and security in Latin America and the Caribbean region, China firmly opposes it. We call on the U.S. to abide by international law and the purposes and principles of the UN Charter and stop violating other countries' sovereignty and security. I can't believe there's still people going, now do Russia. Brother, America, like Russia, for all of its unlimited violence, bloodshed in Ukraine, is doing a fraction of what America does with regular frequency in terms of projecting power. Okay? What are we talking about? Like, what is this? What's really strange about liberals is this demand for like intellectual or moral consistency here, when the very fact that you're demanding intellectual and moral consistency here is actually a clear-cut indication that you don't have that intellectual consistency or moral consistency. It's only consistent if you say America and whatever America does is good. You did not just say that, dude. What the fuck? What, you think Russia is anywhere comparable to the metric ton of damage, even in Africa and elsewhere, is comparable to the United States of America? The global war on terror is alone far more consequential than what Russia can do. And it's not because Russia doesn't have the interest to do so. They simply don't have the power to do so, chatter. Like, this isn't even about, once again, this isn't even about like Russia's intent. Okay? You understand that, right? It's not about Russia's intent. It's just Russia doesn't have the tools or the power or the logistics to be able to conduct this kind of thing. And what you're talking about is the fucking USSR. And I'm not even fucking defending that. I'm talking about something entirely different at this point. You know, we got We got a whole ass different country. That thing literally, what you're talking about there, collapsed the USSR, okay? And once again, even at that point, it was not even comparable to what America was doing. What the fuck? They were a lot more powerful. The USSR was a lot more powerful at that point. And even then, you're comparing it to what? Like what America was doing in terms of what the USSR was doing in Afghanistan is like comparable to what America did in Vietnam or Korea, which again, numbers on the board is marginal in comparison to what America is able to do. So even at its might, even at its like peak power projection, the USSR was doing damage, certainly doing a lot of violence, and Russia is still doing a lot of violence. I'm not saying it's not. It's just in comparison to America throughout its history, it has been marginal. Yeah, but it's shit. Oh my God. As soon as I fucking bring up Russia and the fact that Russia is objectively weaker in comparison to America in terms of dominating the fucking globe, everybody starts chirping. What I'm saying is not an opinion. What I'm saying is pure fact, okay? The difference is I don't agree when Russia does this stuff, and I don't agree when America does this stuff. You, on the other hand, do agree when America does this stuff and don't agree when Russia does this stuff. And that's the reason why you get fucking mad. And that's because you're European, of course. But for us Europeans, they are the worst threat. Yeah, and that's why you're going to keep getting cucked. It's fine. I got it. I already knew you were European by the way you were talking about Russia. I know. America has 800 military bases around the world that we know of. Like, there is no comparison. No other country has historically come close to that with the exception of maybe, like, I guess, the British Empire. But even then, technological advancements have made it so that America could be anywhere in a matter of 24 hours. Like, the logistics of American dominance have never existed in other periods of history. It just does not exist. No, Rome? Are you fucking crazy? No. Ottoman Empire, Rome, this is nothing. The only thing that you could maybe argue is, 13 colonies, British Empire, sun never sets on the British Empire. But even then, the sun actually truly never sets on the American Empire. Like, there is no way that you can compare American hegemony and American dominance to any other country, partially because American dominance came with technological, with new technological availabilities, make it so that you can actually be anywhere all at once. Deformed by vassalage, to paraphrase Mao, the European governing elites can't even breathe through their own noses. Oh, 100%. I mean, this is a clear-cut indication. Macron's response to what Trump did, which is so clearly a violation of every fucking norm, okay? So clearly a violation of international law, so clearly a violation of American law, so clearly a violation of all norms. And every single one of these motherfuckers came out and were like, well, actually, it's pretty good that they did that. And, we hate Maduro, sucks to suck my dick, America #1, China not even #2. It's just so cucked. The irony of you now turning to Europe when it's like 2 a.m. here and I'm about to clock out for the night. I mean, I've been talking about European leaders and their horrible response to this shit. Yeah. Kaja Callas, I require monitoring hat. I have spoken with the Secretary of State Marco Rubio and our ambassador in Caracas. The EU is closely monitoring the situation in Venezuela. The EU has repeatedly stated that Mr. Maduro lacks legitimacy and has defended a peaceful transition. Under all circumstances, the principles of international law and the UN Charter must be respected. We call for restraint. The safety of EU citizens is our country is our top priority. I am more convinced that you will be sad if they toppled North Korea. Dude, healthcare isn't coming regardless if we are going into Venezuela or not. Lol, is Trump. It's a good thing to remove an evil dictator. This is precisely what I'm talking about when I say when you have nothing, when you're lower than dirt and you kind of recognize your powerlessness in the face of it all, you just turn to America doing unnecessary evil around the world. And you think, well, at least we just we destroyed another country or something. Like, you're just a peasant, dude. This is peasant mindset. Okay. Does this open a door for China and Taiwan? I mean, I don't know. I'm not going to say anything about China and Taiwan. Okay. I don't fucking know. Also, I don't think the world needs hypocrisy. Like, I don't think China needs to point to the hypocrisy of the Western world to take action in Taiwan or something. Okay. I think it's very silly to assume that like anyone's going to actually go, wait a minute, China is unifying forcefully with Taiwan. Hold on. I can't say anything because I was there defending America every step of the way. You think that's what's going to go? You think that's how they're going to operate? What are you, fucking crazy? I mean, we saw this dynamic play itself out with Russia and Ukraine and then Israel with Palestine. None of these guys in the West give a shit. There is no hypocrisy. They don't care. You think these guys are going to go, you know, I was going to criticize China taking over Taiwan. But then I remembered America always is doing violent stuff and I keep defending it. So I can't anymore. Yeah, all these guys went from non-interventionists, by the way, to the U.S. economy is about to boom. Tons of free oil heading our way. Who is we? Who is like our way? You think you're getting the free oil? You fucking bald dipshit. Asked if he supports Congress using his power to hold Trump accountable for Venezuela. Chuck Schumer replies, "Let's first get the facts." Hell yeah. Yeah, we're not going to do anything. Okay, no one's going to do anything. And for the record, for the rest of the globe watching, for the people from around the world tuning in right now to see how, Americans are doing on this stuff. The reason why you hear a lot of Americans say like, oh man, why won't China do anything? Oh man, why won't Europe say anything? It's because we have nothing. Okay. We know that we can't do anything about it. The American government is going to do whatever the fuck it wants. Donald Trump is going to continue with this kind of attitude everywhere around the world. And he's going to also bring this exact same narcissism and lack of restraint to its domestic affairs as well, as it has already. And Americans are going to do the surprise Pikachu face at some point when he basically treats the American population like the Venezuelan population. And we will go, wait a minute, what? Wait, but hold on, sir. That's illegal. What do you mean you're not going to have another election? What? And he'll turn around and say, nope, I'm dominating America. What are you going to fucking do about it? Suck my dick. And everyone will go, wait a minute, that's illegal. But we have rights. And in the absence of any sort of serious organizing that could potentially shut off the entire American economy, in the absence of organized labor, recognizing that, we have nobody else to push back against this government because the Democrats are not going to save us. And in the absence of any sort of like serious labor militancy, nothing's going to change. And we'll just go, oh, but there's a democracy here.
The government is running out of money at the end of the month. There are a number of other ways that, along with the War Powers Act, would you consider at all using government funding as a way to leverage when it comes to Venezuela, or what other mechanisms or tools can you use to hold the administration accountable?
Yeah, well, you're absolutely wrong about them saying, wait a minute, but that's illegal. Wait, what are they going to say instead?
The government shutdown.
The 30-day, January 30th is days away. Let's first get all the facts out. That's what we're endeavoring to do right now. And our first...
Americans are a monolith. Got it. Why won't Americans do something? Do something, Americans. Americans are a monolith. Got it. Americans have nothing. Okay. We have nothing. We know nothing. We're too busy fucking trying to make ends meet. And in the brief amount of time that we have to ourselves, we just fucking poison our brains with unlimited pornography and gambling, maybe a little bit of alcohol if we have time. And then also watching slop tubers on YouTube, or, watching a Netflix show, or going on TikTok. So there is no organizing happening here in the United States of America. And no, I didn't forget cocaine. We will not have cocaine any longer. Donald Trump just took down the #1 cocaine kingpin, Nicolas Maduro. So that's it. That's the reason why a lot of people go, oh man, why can't anybody else do something? It's because we can't do anything.
Ability to do that will be the War Powers Act of this week. And again, we are saying to the Republicans, this is your responsibility. President Trump is a member of your party. You've gone along with him over and over again. And this is one time you got to resist him. It's too serious.
The government is...
From the same interview,
Do you think that the Trump administration took this action now, just before Congress comes back, because the War Powers Resolution vote was coming up? Yeah.
Well, that's a good question. I couldn't answer that. I don't know what makes them do what they do.
Do you think that the Trump administration took this action now,
Just say yes, brother. You're the fucking leader of the Senate Democrats. Like, what do you mean? He is just worse than shit.
These officials accountable.
I asked about the possibility of impeachment. Schumer says, we hope that we can get the support from our Republican colleagues to put a break on this long before it gets that far. Look, when Republicans get mad at Democrats over minutia, and never something as severe as what Trump has done on his best day, right? Not even yesterday. I mean, like, Trump on Tuesday is doing 8 impeachable offenses before it's like 1 p.m. Okay? Democrats never even entertain doing something as bold as Trump does on his best day. And yet, when Republicans get mad, they hit the maximum route. They don't go, yeah, I think hopefully our Democratic colleagues will be able to coalesce and come to terms with us on this issue. They say they're all pedophile vampires that must be killed potentially. And if not killed, then, you know, we will hang them for treason. Like, what is this shit? Where they asked Chuck Schumer, the fucking leader of the Democrats in the Senate, what is the possibility of impeachment? And you don't just give a firm commitment? If this is not an impeachable offense, what is? Right? And I know it's because he actually likes what Trump is doing, just like he was in favor of intervention in Iraq, and just as he is in favor of intervention here as well. He just can't like openly say it. So he's just doing this like wishy-washy bullshit. But your job as the leader of the opposition in the Senate is to at least project some power.
What does that look like, and what are the options you guys would have this year, and then obviously looking forward to the next Congress when Democrats might have a majority to hold folks accountable for taking this kind of action? Is that something that could rise to impeachment, or what other options are available to you guys?
Yeah. Tyler, I just say it's premature to guess that far into the future. We hope that, as I said...
Don't you think an impeachment would mean a successful January 6th? What do you think would happen then? Oh my God. Another January 6th? Maybe this time the Democrats will actually prosecute the people who did it and put them in jail, and not just like the random pedophiles who participated in it as foot soldiers, but instead the actual political figures that made it happen, like a Lula style situation, maybe.
We hope that we can have support from our Republican colleagues to put a break on this long before it gets.
I know China's soft power is impressive, but moments like this remind you of the importance of hard power. In 2025, China can't even control an island that is theirs 100 miles off their coast. The USSR was able to uphold Cuba throughout the Cold War, an island 100 miles off the U.S. coast. True. But I think the reason why China is where it's at right now is because it didn't do that stuff. So I go back and forth on this actual truke. Yeah, that is a truth nuke. That is a truth nuke, a truke. But then you remember China is still here and the USSR is not. And that's the reverse truke. Okay? That's the reverse truke. Both imperialism. Yes, security agreements with a existing socialist country that is slammed into the ass cheeks of the largest imperial superpower that is capitalist, that has actually implemented ridiculous blockades in perpetuity since the successful Cuban Revolution. Like, any sort of aid is actually imperialism. I know you are the most woke and the most moral leftist out there. Yes, true leftism has not been tried. China is capitalist. Got it. Okay. Capital exists in China. China's navy is way more powerful than the USSR and Cuban Missile Crisis. Is not power. It's will to use it. America's navy, in comparison to what it looked like back in the Cuban Missile Crisis, is also very different, I think. Because remember, the Cuban Missile Crisis only happened because America brought Turkey into NATO and then put missile bases in the direction of Russia, the USSR. Keep it up, bro. You're doing a shit job. You know, Much like people don't have any other options other than China, you don't really have any other options other than me either. Okay? You either get this, a tired Hasan, 8 hours in, or you get, yeah, base, this is awesome. And also, you know, we should dominate every non-white and non-Christian country out there. So, you know, have fun, I guess.
That far, this is unprecedented as to what he has done and the way he has done it, and the secrecy in which he is engaged in it. And we're going to do everything we can to hold them accountable. And
good point.
to,
Goodbye forever.
Restrain the kinds of bad efforts that seem to be happening right now, and could get worse.
XQC also said it's great that it happened because they weren't producing enough oil or some bullshit. Okay, I think we got to be done. Like, Asmongold is one thing. I don't need to hear from XQC. I'm serious. Like, at least Asmongold is like consistently positioning himself as like a very loud pro-Trump voice who has built an audience of people who are at least interested in politics. Like, XQC is more so just like people watching him for the memes whenever he has like opinions on shit. Okay? We don't have to hear from a Quebecer anyway.
To know that my dad in his lifetime was able to see the fall of Nicolas Maduro, look, for me it's an emotion. I would like to see his face.
Thank you.
Since 2014, around 7.7 million Venezuelans have left the country, according to the UN International Organization for Migration. Venezuelans living in Spain also rejoiced at Maduro's capture, while they tried to get hold of friends and relatives still in the country. Some of them are sheltering at home. A few other people in Caracas went out to stock up on essentials. Some of them are concerned that they may now have to hunker down for a prolonged period, uncertain of what is to come.
We do want to see you cook the French-Canadian law. I'm not going to. I'd rather hear what your co-workers' take is than XUC's take on politics. I'm sorry. Okay? I want to hear the Pepegon watered-down version of what Destiny has to say. Then I'll go to XQC. Like, that's crazy. The U.S. military launched a series of attacks against Venezuela early Saturday morning, reportedly capturing President Nicolas Maduro and flying him out of the country.
Sentirse asustados como todo, como el día de hoy, y en la madrugada.
Venezuelans woke up scared. Many families couldn't sleep. I have been back on the street. I just got back from Maracay. Everything is blocked. Everything is bad. Very bad. About President Nicolas Maduro's capture, what can I say? A lot of things. We expect many things. The government has not had positive results. They imposed the law. They are the police of the world. Assassin police. They are assassins. They are not normal people. They are assassins. Asesinos. In front of the house, it fell down. I don't know well, but you can see the blast strongly, and it shattered all windows. We can see here all windows in the facade of the house are shattered. It was too loud. We got up and took shelter. During that first explosion, which was so loud that we felt the first damage to my home. A terrifying experience. We're still on edge. And now we're uncertain about what to do. We're staying safe at home, or we go out to look for food. I don't know, and especially us. We're single people. So I don't dare go out, leave my house alone, and well, I'm at the state of uncertainty.
Taking a turn here now, when President Trump was asked exactly who would be running the country of Venezuela temporarily.
Oh, I can't wait for the fucking CBS Evening News, which, as you guys know, is a Barry Weiss thing. But yeah, in Catia La Mar, a city just west of the Caracas airport, the airstrikes hit a 3-story civilian apartment complex, knocking out an exterior wall and killing at least one older woman, the victim's family said. The woman, Rosa Gonzalez, died on the strike, and a second person was seriously wounded, the family said. One woman in the building said she was hit and nearly lost her eye. Another person, a 70-year-old man named Jorge, who declined to give his last name, said he lost everything when the bomb exploded. Yeah, I know you know this, but for leftists shitting on Venezuelans who are as excited about this action, it is the most human thing in the world to not recognize one's own oppression in the face of immediate relief. I just hope folks develop as much empathy as possible in working to develop folks' class consciousness. Yeah, except, once again, if you're coming in here to fucking contest America's actions and to tell me that it's actually good, yeah, I'm going to be like, listen, your future is looking bleak. Okay? That's it. That's it. Because it's the truth. Just like exactly what happened in Iraq. Yeah. Also, to add insult to injury, this is what these guys were looking at while they were blowing up that old lady and that old man's house. This is what they were looking at, and every single fucking hog on the internet is going, hell yeah, we're going to get free oil. I mean, we are lower than dirt, and we deserve even less. I'm serious. We are the devils. It's pretty crazy. Our output is pretty awful. Oh, I saw this tweet already. Nicolas Maduro. He accused Albanians, and now he has been arrested. Nicolas Maduro, you chose the wrong people to attack. You played with lies, and the truth answered back. Venezuela is free. Free because brave people stood up. Free because fear no longer rules. Free because justice cannot be silenced forever. Respect to everyone, and especially at POTUS, which is my favorite thing that people do. Like, this random Albanian man tweeted at POTUS like the president is going to see it and go, wow, I got a lot of people appreciating me in Albania. That's right. Didn't I save you guys? Didn't you have a problem with Azerbaijan or something? Very nice. See, they're singing my praises. Also, for those who know that this is the most Albanian thing a human being can possibly think or say. I am reminded of my favorite quote of Enver Hoxha, okay, who once famously said, between us and China, we have 1-point-something billion. We have 1 billion communists. Okay, so this is the most Albanian, like greatly overemphasizing your power in a way that is incredibly insane. Okay. Respect to everyone, and especially POTUS, who helped liberate this beautiful country. Truth always wins. Freedom always rises.
Lo ha denunciado. Los tenemos. Están hablando. Los 3 teléfonos. La mafia albanesa.
This guy didn't even put the subtitles. What did he say about Albanians? Do you think this is something we don't have to worry about? A lot seems to be going on at the moment. Don't ask me some shit like this, man. Okay? I already have one bad prediction. I don't know what the fuck North Korea is doing. Okay? He's talking about the Albanian mafia. Oh. That dude is from Kosovo? No. That dude is probably from Birmingham, okay? The Albanian guy that tweeted that, let me see where this motherfucker's from. Hold on. There is no way. That motherfucker absolutely is tweeting that shit from not Kosovo, but from like Birmingham or some shit, okay? Yeah, account based in the United Kingdom. There you go. There you have it. Get the fuck out of here, dude. Get the fuck out of here. Despite being only 0.4% of EU citizens, Albanians are responsible for 99% of the flags posted online. God, I love Albanian posting. It's awesome. And of course, he's followed by Gunther. What's the point of even defending Maduro? You're right. If I don't like a foreign leader, we should just kill him. That's what I think. I think when I don't like leaders, we should just fucking kill him. When America wants to dispose of a leader of a foreign nation, they should just fucking kill him. What's the point? Otherwise, people will say, why are you defending Maduro? My opinion on Maduro plays no role in this analysis, okay? Not even a little bit. Did I say that? No, you didn't say that. But you're still trying to drive home a very stupid argument. The notion that like any kind of criticism of America's unlawful actions is actually a defense of the person that was arrested. That's it. Speaking like that, you're gonna get an accidental position in the admin. Yeah.
Trying to couple the major.
MAGA appointee Barry Weiss has instantly made CBS News more extremist and disinfo heavy than Newsmax.
Breaking news right now. A daring American military operation inside Venezuela. More than 150 aircraft lighting up the night sky as the Army's elite Delta Force captured dictator Nicolas Maduro. Commandos raiding his compound before dawn, grabbing he and his wife in their pajamas, just moments before they could lock themselves into a safe room made of steel. And President Trump posting this picture of...
Why do you never just answer the question genuinely and instead respond with hyperbolic language the person never said? It makes you seem like you don't actually have an answer to the question. Because maybe over the course of the last 8 hours and 21 minutes, I've answered that same exact question a million times over, and that Maduro's personal qualities, his form of governance, his political repression, absolutely zero bearing on why he was fucking kidnapped, and that the far greater crime in this situation is just America deciding to wholesale, unilaterally kidnap a fucking foreign government's leader. And, you know, I'm just bored of fucking responding to the same exact goddamn question over and over again, as though it's 2004 once again. And we're saying, you know, maybe we shouldn't actually have invaded Iraq, and people are calling me, or you, or anyone really, for saying that correct point at that time. America hating terrorist lovers who want to fucking, you know, have sex with Saddam Hussein. Perhaps it's the same exact argument that has played itself over and over again in perpetuity, as a matter of fact, in American policy. And after a certain point, it gets, you know, it gets to a level where you're like, all right, enough is enough. Okay? Enough. I don't give a shit if he just came in at this point. You know, you can rewind if you subscribe to the Piker Broadcasting Service and look at all of the commentary that was poured in. Moments like this, I think the invasion was justified. We need to spread our genes to other parts of the world if we want America to be first again. If you disagree, you're not loyal to the U.S. Maduro used to work as a bus driver. Why are you pretending that a bus driver would have been competent enough to lead a country full of rich oil? That chatter is joking. That chatter is joking. Calm down. He's not being serious. Jesus Christ. No one that would unironically advance that position knows that Maduro used to be a bus driver. Please, guys. Okay? Anyone that knows Maduro used to be a bus driver is not going to sincerely say the second part. No, it's true. Why must everything be a joke? Again, 8 fucking hours in, that's probably 8 hours and 30 minutes in is probably the reason why people are cracking jokes. Honest question, was Maduro really at the level of a dictator and not just a terrible president? It seems like there are worse dictators around the world than Maduro. Yes, there are. Of course. It's just he wasn't a servant of America, and he wasn't good. But him not being good doesn't change anything. Seriously, I don't even want to entertain this conversation. It's so stupid.
Would be
compare and contrast how Tony DeCopple treats Ta-Nehisi Coates to how he treats Pete Hegseth.
Running the country of Venezuela temporarily, he referred to the officials standing there behind him at the podium. And one of those officials joins us now, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth. Mr. Secretary, thank you very much for joining us. I want to begin tonight with the soldiers and sailors involved in this. We're very happy. Thank you again. We are very happy to hear that there was no loss of American life in this mission. And I understand you're just back from Joint Base Andrews, where you met with some of the team members involved in all of this. How are they doing? And you were watching this unfold. What did you see?
I saw the best of America. I saw men and women dedicating their lives to defending our country and to accomplishing that mission. I just landed here at Joint Base Andrews, had a chance to meet a lot of them firsthand who were involved, walked through the TikTok of what can only be described as the most sophisticated, most complicated, most successful joint special operations raid of all time. I mean, nothing of this size, scope, when you actually unpack what was done kinetically and non-kinetically, that many people, that many moving parts, that consequential, and they got the job done. And despite any obstacles in front of them, it is incredible to be able to serve such courageous Americans. We do right
Mr.
by
Secretary?
them, and President Trump did. He gave them a clear.
Seems like maintaining the ruling actors while they hand over resource sovereignty is the strategy. The thing that I don't understand about that is that, like, why did they do that while kicking off Maduro then, right? Like, what's the difference then? I mean, isn't the rest of the party hardliners too? And it's not like Maduro wasn't seemingly compliant. It kind of feels like he was compliant. So I don't know. This is not an intention to work with Delcy Rodriguez and remnants of the Chavista regime. It's another veiled threat to submit to U.S. dictates. It's none of these guys have seen a mob threat before. Yeah, but I still don't get it, because I think they threatened Maduro quite a bit. This seems to confirm that Washington's intention, at least for now, is to work with Delcy Rodriguez and the remnants of the Chavista regime. Presumably, there will be a negotiated democratic transition over time, like all else subject to change. Okay, let's be real. There is no care or consideration for a democratic transition. We're talking about America. Historically, there have been less democratic transitions with American stewardship than direct autocracy that they implemented. Okay, so that kind of shit, that's nonsense. That's just New York Times seasoning to still maintain the image that America is the world police and is just like kind of doing this for democracy, like, oh, big bad scary Maduro. I just don't know. Hate to inform you that Kamala tweeted. Oh, let's see. Donald Trump's actions in Venezuela do not make America safer, stronger, or more affordable to Maduro. That Maduro is a brutal, illegitimate dictator does not change the fact that this action was both unlawful and unwise. Look, if you say this, you might as well just say Donald Trump is right and I'm a pussy, okay? Straight up. Because most people will look at this and go, why do I give a fuck about process? Donald Trump just destroyed a fucking brutal tyrant. Like, I don't understand it. Even if you truly believe it, you probably shouldn't say it to make a better argument, you know? Bernie said it too. It's just like, it's just so silly. To me, if I'm an uneducated American coming into this, whether I'm liberal or conservative or apolitical, doesn't matter. When I hear the words brutal, illegitimate dictator, and then I hear criticism following the apprehension of a brutal and illegitimate dictator, I think you're an unserious person. I think to myself, who gives a shit that Donald Trump violated laws? I don't give a fuck about process. I don't give a fuck about process at all. Yeah, that's exactly why I voted for Donald Trump. I voted for Donald Trump because he doesn't care about this silly, fancy words and the mumbo jumbo. He gets the job done. He sees a fucking brutal tyrant, an illegitimate dictator, and he fucks him. Okay? Do you understand the point I'm making? This is more so like a marketing technique. Okay? I'm simply saying this is, this is not about like true opinions about Maduro. This is not a criticism of Maduro's administration. This is not a defense of Maduro's administration. This is simply marketing. You can't frame a fucking argument by being like, I cannot believe that Donald Trump arrested a brutal, illegitimate dictator. When you say that, of course, people are going to go, wait a minute. No, actually, that is a good thing that Donald Trump did that. Okay? It's fucking stupid. It's a stupid way to argue. This constant need to be like, no, I'm actually covering all my bases. I'm actually talking about this stuff in a way where, like, at a time, in a media environment such as this one especially, when you're trying to do this like weird ass covering shit, you come across as apologetic. And also on top of that, your framing is stupid. You framed the argument against yourself. Oh, Donald Trump. Oh, this guy Maduro is basically Adolf Hitler. But I really think that you shouldn't apprehend Adolf Hitler without following due process. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Then wouldn't it be easily countered by laying out how this guy was a brutal dictator? Isn't it better to start with how he came into power? No. You want to know why nobody ever has that conversation about fucking Saudi Arabia? Because it's already established. It's uniparty. It doesn't matter. That's it. Because nobody even talks about it. Because the conversation is not about Maduro's perceived brutality. Okay? The conversation here is Donald Trump's brutality, as a matter of fact. You are unironically giving Donald Trump a W here when you say this. I know people are going to be like, oh, but Hasan, you should be honest to a fault at this point or whatever if this is your genuine opinion. But these are politicians, okay? These are politicians. You used the Iraq example, which is accurate, but it also rings so recently to the condemning Hamas even before discussing what Israel is doing. Exactly. And I hated that shit when they were doing that too. Oh my God, I condemn Hamas. Israel has a right to defend itself. What the fuck are you talking about? They're doing a genocide. Shut the fuck up. Do you understand? The point is, if you do that, the average person is going to think, oh, okay, well, he was a brutal, illegitimate dictator. Oh, well, I don't really care. And they're going to see a lot of this normalizing from the media anyway, talking about how Venezuelans are fucking dancing on the streets and they're welcoming American action as liberators, all this shit, you know? And then they're going to think, okay, these Democrats are being pussies. Like, wow, they're defending a brutal, illegitimate dictatorship. How stupid. They're defending a brutal, illegitimate dictatorship on the grounds that Donald Trump didn't follow the rules. Who gives a fuck? You know who wasn't following the rules? A brutal, illegitimate dictator. Do you understand? It's a self-defeating argument. Make a better fucking argument. Like, that Maduro is a brutal, illegitimate dictator does not change the fact that this action was both unlawful and wise. We've seen this movie before. Wars for regime change for oil that are sold as strength but turn into chaos. And American families pay the price. The American people do not want this. And they're tired of being lied to. This is not about drugs or democracy. It is about oil and Donald Trump's desire to play the regional strongman. Then the rest is fine. If he cared about either, he wouldn't pardon a convicted drug trafficker or sideline Venezuela's legitimate opposition while pursuing... Hey, I know you're doing regime change, but you're not doing it CIA enough is a crazy fucking statement. God damn it, dude. Yeah. Is it because Machado is a woman? Is that why? Yeah, Joe Biden 2020. Trump talks tough on Venezuela, but admires thugs and dictators like Nicolas Maduro. As president, I will stand with the Venezuelan people and for democracy. Do you guys remember? Do you guys remember what I said to you about how the Democrats also want to do the same thing that the Republicans are doing, but they have a very different way of defending it? This is the Democratic position on regime change in Venezuela. Okay? The Republican position on regime change in Venezuela is they have oil. Yum. I want to suck it off of the ground. I want to suck the cummies directly from the ground. I want that sweet, juicy, thick oil. I want it. It's mine. It's my oil. Venezuela happens to be sitting on it. Venezuela no longer exists. Is my oil forever. It's the difference between like outward fascism and just like gay fascism, gay and woke fascism. It's crazy how many statements by elected Democrats on the Venezuela stuff are like, wow, that's freaking awesome. Unfortunately, however, you didn't ask my permission to do it. Would have said yes, by the way. Exactly. Like, yeah, what you did fuck me up. And let me tell you why. Because I would have been there with you. And you didn't let me get time at the podium. Oh, Jesus Christ, it's so fucking busted. And that's also part of the reason why I think people like Asmongold and many other right-wingers get to present themselves as like consistent, you know? Hasan, there are families watching you on TV and you're talking about sucking and fucking the oil. Oh shit, I'm sorry. I apologize. I forgot. We have a larger audience than usual. There's probably parents watching. Got a little crazy there. I love me some thick oil, you know? I love me some crude. It makes me rude, okay? You know, when I think about that thick, crude oil, which is bad, by the way, it's not even good. We're basically doing a service to Venezuela by stealing it, honestly. Oh, our ExxonMobil, Chevron masters are, you know, they're going out of their way for that free 300 million barrels of thick crude oil. It's the bad kind. It's not the good kind. It's black. It's viscous. It's not, you know, light enough. I hate it. I hate how dense it is. It's not clean enough, but I want that gloop. Anyway, let's keep going. What else does she say? Convicted drug trafficker. The president is putting troops at risk, spending billions, destabilizing a region, offering no legal authority, no exit plan, and no benefit at home. America needs leadership whose priorities are lowering the cost for working families, enforcing the rule of law, strengthening alliances, and most importantly, putting American people first. Hasan, you son of a gun. I literally linked your stream to my parents, and now they're giving me a lecture on celebrities and their sexual fantasies. Okay, hear me out, though. Have they seen thick crude? Yeah, it's like Earth took a healthy serving of zinc to make sure that it was thick. What? Do we know why they chose New York to prosecute him? I'm running with the theory that Trump wanted to occupy Mamdani's time to limit his actions in New York. No, it has nothing to do with that. Southern District of New York handles all of those high-profile court cases, like international court cases. I'm sure someone in here knows why, but at least in my experience, it's always the Southern District of New York. Anyway, my 5-year-old questions my choices because of you. If you think about it, oil is earth come. I agree. That's what the whole joke was. Yeah. All right. So Kamala Harris said this. We talked about the intention. In an interview with the New York Times, Marco Rubio, the Secretary of State, said he was reserving judgment for Delcy Rodriguez's comments in which she denied she planned to work with the United States. We're going to make decisions based on their actions and their deeds in the days and weeks to come. So we're not out of this yet. You know how like all these guys are saying, oh, well, we really like that you did the fucking regime change, but I don't know if you should, continue military presence in Venezuela. Well, when we continue military presence in Venezuela, they will sing a very different tune because none of these guys act opinions. And they simply will go along with whatever the administration is saying and doing until it's no longer seen as favorable, at which point they will actually turn on the admin, at least for a little bit, until they do something that the audience likes again, at which point they'll act as though they were always there. Midwest Nice, thank you for the 25 Get the Subs and for sponsoring the Piker Broadcasting Service. Anyway, fuck, man. What a stupid time to be alive.
We're back on the CBS Evening News.
I'm skipping
We're back
this.
here watching the CBS Evening News. If you're just joining us, we're in a live conversation with Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth, just back from Joint Base Andrews, where he met some of the soldiers and sailors involved in that mission in Venezuela. Mr. Secretary, thank you for staying with us. I want to go back to the, to the rationale tonight. Is it about freedom or is it about oil? At the press conference today, President Trump seemed to indicate that both were a factor.
Freedom, security, prosperity. Of course, there are what was done by Venezuela against American oil interests and oil companies is
Oh, fuck
is well
yeah.
understood and never should have happened, and President Trump is willing to recapture that. But it's also the security of our hemisphere. If people understood what Venezuela was trafficking in with other adversaries, weapons they were trafficking, and then, of course, the drugs and the cartels, the poisoning of the American people, the violence, Tren de Aragua that have been brought to our shores, all three of those combined together in this bold and courageous action from President Trump. He takes nothing off the table. So what happens next will be in the hands of Venezuelans to decide, but ultimately America will benefit security-wise and with prosperity, and we believe the Venezuelan people can as well.
You know, Mr. Secretary, today at the press conference, you said, and I'm going to say it slowly so I get it right, Maduro effed around and found out. And that's obviously a message not only to Maduro, but to many American adversaries around the world. And it comes on the heels of President Trump saying that U.S. intervention in Iran would be possible if Iran kills protesters. It comes as Secretary of State Marco Rubio says Cuba should possibly be worried tonight. What's next here? What's the message? Who did you have in mind when you said F around and find out?
Yeah, we have an unlimited appetite for death. Hegseth was personally booked by Barry Weiss, according to Brian Stelter. Of course he was. God, CBS is so fucking ass. Yeah, we have an unlimited appetite for death and destruction. We got more enemies in mind. Let's just keep blowing up everybody, dude. It's fine.
Globally.
Well, I referred also to the Iranians and their nuclear capabilities. The president said they will never get a nuclear bomb. The Iranians didn't believe it. He acted. He said the same thing about Maduro. He acted. He said the same thing with the Houthis. He acted. Southern border acted. We're going to do something about drugs. He's acting. We're acting with striking drug boats. This is a president of action. And you don't get peace in this dangerous world without strength. So there's been a lot of politicians that want to talk. They want to talk peace. They want to talk diplomacy. They want to talk negotiations. They want to talk globalism, international organizations. President Trump speaks through action. And so our allies understand that, and they're stepping up, spending more. Our adversaries understand that. So all around the world should take notice. American leadership is back. When he says something matters, it does. And we will take the necessary action with the full weight of the Department of War.
You know, Mr. Secretary, in the aftermath of this successful mission, there were tears of joy in Caracas, in Miami. Venezuelan refugees obviously thrilled to see Maduro out of power, his capture. You can understand why. They've got all that oil, and yet the country itself has skyrocketing prices. His own people have been starving. And yet a meaningful number of Americans would wake up to this news and they'd be ripped back 20 years to another American president, another U.S. intervention. I'm thinking of the war in Iraq. And that led to a significant loss of U.S. treasure and of U.S. blood. Many of the president's own supporters tonight are wondering, how is this time around going to be different? And how is it in the U.S. interest?
It's the exact opposite. I mean, we spent
totally separate things. You see, Tony, it's totally different. Because why? Well, because fuck you. And also because different. Just take my word for it, Tony. Why don't you shut the fuck up before I decide you're an oil-rich nation yourself? I decided to take on this interview because my best friend Barry Weiss called me, and also because I'm terrified of her, because when she makes a boss call, she's making a boss call for Israel. Okay? Why don't you ask me stuff? Why don't you ask me better questions like how many drinks I've had? The answer is 15. It's time for celebration, baby. I'm cracking a couple cold ones.
Decades and decades and purchased in blood and got nothing economically in return. And President Trump flips the script. He says through strategic action, we can ensure that we have access to.
Yeah. This is a flip scripting, a script flipping. Fuck, I can't even talk anymore.
Wife to go to this facility. You mentioned an attorney there, Ellie. I mean, what is it like to be a criminal defense attorney for someone like Nicolas Maduro?
Well, you know, it's incredibly difficult, but I will tell you, I've been in touch with a lot of prominent defense lawyers today who have told me that they are angling to get this case. And remember, criminal defense lawyers, they don't make judgments about whether their clients
Harris's
are good
statement
or
is
bad
actually
or
pretty on point.
guilty
No,
or
it's
not
not.
guilty.
It's
The
stupid.
reason this is
Anytime Democrats, regardless of how much they fucking hate Maduro, anytime Democrats start the conversation by being like, this is an illegitimate and brutal, ruthless dictator, a tyrant that was deposed, but the way that they did it was actually bad and wrong, they look like fucking morons. Because everyone that reads that goes, why should people care about the fucking rules when they're deposing a tyrant? Are you kidding me?
To land this representation, to represent Nicolas Maduro and his wife.
Did they tell you why? Why they want to? I mean, what drives interest like that?
Yeah. Yeah, well, number one, big-time criminal defense lawyers like to be involved in big-time cases. This is going to be a massively high-profile case. Number two, there are some novel legal issues that are going to be presented in this case that I think some of these defense lawyers would like a chance to argue. We've really seen very little like this. There will be novel constitutional and international law arguments raised. And third is just straight-up money. Criminal defense lawyers, not a knock on them, but they like to get paid. This is obviously a very wealthy individual who can pay top dollar for his defense team.
Evan Perez, you're outside
he's got a lot of coke money. He's got hella fucking coke money, dude. You know how he is.
Like, let's talk about the role that the DA has played in this and what that looks like, that collaboration going forward.
Do you think there's a chance that another part of aggressive action in Venezuela is to make it easier to defend, like how Turkey has acted in Syria?
20 years in the making,
No.
Against Maduro himself.
I don't think
that DEA agents have been.
There is no comparison between the amount of Venezuelan refugees that America has taken and the amount of Syrian refugees that Turkey has taken. Like, not even close. Numbers wise, you're talking about 10 million in a country that is 90 million versus how many Venezuelan refugees are in America. Like, when Donald Trump talks about migrants coming into the country, he's actually just doing that as propaganda anyway. It's not like he has a serious interest in like eradicating. No, 7 million all around Latin America, chat. They didn't all come to America. The fuck? Yeah, if they did, it would still obviously be a much smaller number in comparison to the number of Syrian refugees that came to Turkey. But like, that's, that would be that would be insane. Actually, that would be the most consequential migration flow that has happened in American history. 7 million over the course of 1 year from one place would be insane. No, 700,000 somewhere along those lines. That makes a lot more sense. That's still a pretty high number, but ultimately it's not like a serious interest for, I think, the Trump administration
in U.S. custody, and to bring a finer point to what John was talking about,
to basically do everything in their power to kick out all of the Venezuelans.
Here in Brooklyn, it is not a very nice place. It is some of the people who've been held here say that it's infested with rats. It's as John pointed out, apparently it doesn't have very good heating for the.
I'm a public defender in New York City. I'd like to defend Maduro. The legal issues are interesting, and you could create a theme around American imperialism. Brother, I'm gonna keep it real with you. I don't think a public defender is defending Maduro. Okay, not the rain on your parade chatter. And I'm proud of your work that you're doing, but there is very little likelihood that he's gonna go, let's get a public defender on board in this incredibly consequential international legal case that will dictate the future of American foreign policy.
You hear a roar from the crowd here in Brooklyn. Caitlin?
Yeah, and just to reemphasize, the scene that we are watching play out right now, to Evan's point,
Respect, though.
What a
You should
change the
try
last
to see
24
if you
hours
can
have
get
brought
on.
for Nicolas Maduro. He was in his palace in Caracas 24 hours ago. Now he is being transported in multiple different motorcades, helicopters,
Cruel World
planes,
Chaz, thank you for the
on
50 gift to sub.
the USS Iwo Jima earlier today, before ultimately being brought here to the end of this journey for him for the foreseeable
Guys,
future.
that's too much travel. Okay, that's too much travel. Maduro's an old man. You know, I think they should just let him go on humanitarian grounds. What do we think? Come on. Too much travel is
It
fucked
looks
up.
like on the inside, and I do think there's a question of whether or not special accommodations are made for him, or how they prepare for the arrival of someone this high profile any moment now.
Well, one of the big concerns, obviously, is his security, because obviously you want to make sure that no harm comes to him while he's in custody, while he awaits trial. That is the whole purpose of what they're concerned about here. It's not necessarily about his comfort, it's more about his security. Now, it is also true that as a foreign leader, as a former foreign leader, although one that the United States, if you read the statements from the U.S. government today, they do not recognize that Maduro
Venezuela
is
is free.
actually
Fuck
the leader
Maduro.
of Venezuela, or was the leader of Venezuela.
Venezuela's free to
so
be
there's
raped
going to be some legal
by
arguments that are going to be made
American
in the next
capital
few months
and
as to
plundered
whether
and
he
pillaged.
deserves to be treated with any kind of special care. One of the things that we saw, more than 30 years ago, when Manuel Noriega was brought to the United States to face charges in Miami, he successfully
That's
argued
him? No,
that he
that's
should
his
be
body
treated as a
double.
prisoner of war. That allowed him to wear his military uniform when he went to trial. It also got him some better prison conditions when he was brought to the United States. All of those things are probably going to be in play now by the former Venezuelan leader. But it's certainly, if you listen to some of the federal officials who've been involved in this case, I talked to someone who was running special operations for the DEA over the last few decades and oversaw some of these cases that were building against people in government in Venezuela. This moment is a very important one because they say over the years.
I want to apologize for my previous number. I said 10 million, and then a chatter said Turkey didn't actually take 10 million. Law get fucked Hasan. Can't believe you read the message. All of us in Latin America are happy for his capture. Okay, well, it'll come for you too next. So get excited for that. Oh, Hamzanovich. No, it's not 10 million. You're right. The correct number is, well, figures fluctuate, but it's not 3 million. Somewhere around 4 to 6 million. It's not 10. You are correct. From what I understand. But the official numbers from the UN Refugee Agency is, wait, where is it? Wait, no, not 4 to 6 million. 3.2 million Syrians is the official number from the UNCHR.
We're going to be watching this. There's a white van.
Holy shit, your hair is so
surrounded
good.
with
I need
blue
a fucking
lights. The back
haircut
door
so
appears to
bad,
be
dude.
Open as it is slowly making its way through the streets here of New York with that police motorcade, a massive presence. I can hear the Venezuelan, a lot of those Venezuelan nationals that you said are behind you cheering. And you mentioned Noriega, Evan, and I think that's a good point because we've been talking about the parallels of that case, 36 years after he was captured by U.S. forces in Panama. And you're right, he did get special accommodations. He had, they nicknamed it the presidential suite where he was held. It is not what anyone else would, liken to a presidential suite, but he did get special accommodations in those pretrial proceedings.
I thought Jeff was coming today too, but he hasn't responded.
One of the things that I think you're going to see play out in the next few months is perhaps his lawyers arguing that he deserves to be treated differently from some of the other prisoners. It's certainly not what for example, the former president of Honduras, Juan Orlando Hernandez, was entitled to. Certainly, while he was here. But again, this case is so different, right? We've not when
yeah,
the
Jeff is
former Honduran
invading
president came
Venezuela.
here, you didn't
Jeff Wittek.
have, this crowd show up to cheer his arrival here. It kind of he was just another criminal defendant. Maduro is absolutely different, and so one of the things that they're going to be concerned about is making sure
Asmongold viewer says premature.
That no harm comes to him or his.
Asmongold viewer says his premature celebration of victory over Venezuela mirrors Americans who celebrated victory in Iraq when Saddam was deposed. Only spent decades in brutal and expensive war. Asman has no response. Quickly bans the viewer and calls him a bot.
Somebody says this is Iraq all over again. Somebody says this is Iraq all over again. What happened to object permanence? Let me ask you something. What about this makes you think it's like Iraq? Saddam deposed quickly? So wait a minute. So your logic is that because we got this guy quickly, it's going to be like Iraq? Like I'm not even really sure exactly what you're trying to say.
I mean, oil extraction was the primary focus in Iraq as well. Obviously, there was additional elements, Israel involvement and shit like that. But yeah, that's what it was. Why would this be any different? It's a one-to-one comparison. Actually, it's more devastating from the perspective of a white nationalist or like a white nativist, right? And the reason for why it's more devastating for someone like Asmongold, who hates that there are like, bands of migrants coming into the country, is that at least Iraq is far away in proximity. What do you think is going to happen in terms of the explosive growth, the explosive numbers of like destabilized, dishomed people, dispossessed people that are probably going to go to other countries in the region as they have done already, which will cause these much poorer countries to experience the economic shock of, receiving 7 million migrants, maybe 700,000 of them made their way to the United States of America, got TPS. But if those numbers are even larger than that, considering that Venezuela is how big is it? It's like 30 million, I think. Ultimately, how many of them are going to come to the United States of America? A fuck ton more. And not just, hey, it's me. Oh, nice. Not just from the not just going to the United States of America from Venezuela, but to other countries that will also then experience economic instability due to the influx of migrants that they're receiving, which will then create more migrants that are coming from those other countries. So clearly, this will cause a lot of brown people to come to the United States of America, which is something that Asmongold doesn't like anyway. And now Jeff Wittek will be here in 15 minutes. What is this male obsession in cutting their hair when they have it just right? We need to start teaching men that have a little voice in their heads telling them to cut their hair is literally the devil.
U.S. doomed to spend 20 years? We got ourselves a bot, bro. We got ourselves a bot going in here just saying the same thing over and over and over.
I guess when you don't really have an argument, that is true. What I wonder about stuff like this is I wonder if there's like people in the chat that go, wait a minute, that actually does make sense. Why'd you just call them a bot? Because I'm sure whenever I yell at people after responding like a million times over, when I end up yelling at people, there's some people who agree with the person who's coming in with a quote unquote sincere demand. And they hear me yelling at that person and go, fuck this guy. This guy doesn't know how to answer a goddamn question. I wonder if they do that with Asmongold as well. I like chill morning, Hasan. You were better today. Thank you. If you cut your hair, it will literally ruin my birthday. Also, wish me a happy birthday, please. Haas Gun. Butterstains. Happy birthday. Yeah, people from the global south immigrate to Western countries because the West makes it impossible to thrive in our own. While here, you endure the most vicious nativism while killing yourself to find jobs whose taxes fund the killing of your families back home, an insane cycle. And it's true. This is why he's saying that, yeah. After the absolute blowout in Venezuela and previously with Iran, it becomes increasingly clear that the 20-year war in the Middle East was by design. Yeah, it is. It is by design. War is not meant to be ended quickly. And therefore, you will see what that same design looks like in Venezuela. But of course, the way he's describing it is like, oh, Trump is different. And the way he's approaching this is totally different. He wants a swift entry and swift exit, right? Like that's what he's claiming. And he's worried that if it doesn't happen, then he'll have to, and God forbid people get upset with how long this quagmire lasts for, then all of a sudden it's going to become indefensible and he'll shift his priorities and his positions he'll shift his priorities and positions nonetheless. Also, yes, the prison that Maduro is going to is also the same prison that has Luigi Mangione and Diddy as well. The thing is, if they don't get a pliant government with whoever is like the remnant of Maduro's administration, okay? If he can't get a pliant government with the current government of Venezuela, Trump, I mean, they're going to have to put Machado in charge. And Machado is a dog, right? Machado is servile to the interests of the West. She has basically begged the West to do this and place her in a position of power. However, the problem is, while the Maduro government, the current Maduro government, without Maduro, can maintain stability, right, amongst the remnants of the Chavista movement, amongst the masses that have now been armed, a Machado puppet state is probably not going to be able to keep up that same level of stability. This will cause instability. This will cause tremendous strife. It will make people very angry. You will realize that perhaps while there are a lot of people who did not like Maduro, there are still plenty of people who don't like Machado either, or don't want to be a puppet to the West. Because at the end of the day, I think a lot of people, a lot of Venezuelans, they just want democracy, they want freedom, they want to live their lives, and they want economic improvements. So if you put someone like Machado in charge, and her goal is not to immediately improve the material conditions of the Venezuelan population, but instead to basically allow Western capital to rape and pillage the natural resources, there's going to be a fuck ton of people who are resentful from the remnants of the Chavistas, and a fuck ton of people that are going to be resentful for the new administration not improving their lives. And now they have a fuck ton of guns. So, of course, there will be mass instability. And when there's mass instability, because there's mass resentment, there will be mass repression and political persecution, the likes that people have not seen before. You know, so not dissimilar to what we've seen in other Latin American puppet dictatorships that were installed, like Pinochet, for example. So that is the reason why the Trump administration, if they don't want to go into a long-standing quagmire, have to play ball with the existing Maduro administration without Maduro in charge. Otherwise, that instability will cause profits to that instability will make it much harder for the oil fields to be properly secured for Western capital. Okay? Ultimately, this means that unless they can figure out a way to make things work, unless they can figure out a way to make things work with the current administration, if they put Machado in charge, they are going to have, you keep saying the West and Western capital in opposition to hypothetical Venezuelan resistance. I know it's a force of habit, but they are Westerners too. Yeah, I'm saying Western capital. And no, Venezuela is still, I think, in this conversation, I think everybody understands what I'm talking about, right? Like, we're talking about pro-capitalist, Western capital, Western hegemony. Venezuela clearly is not a part of this equation. So I think whichever way you cut it, the aircraft carriers have to stay in there for a little bit longer. First, as a threat to make sure that the Maduro administration is complying to the demands being made by Trump and to prove their loyalty, or to directly intervene if the Maduro administration, or what remains of the Maduro administration, don't comply to the Trump demands, and then they have to intervene militarily, therefore creating a design not dissimilar to Iraq. Okay? Just say Northwest. No, I'm not going to say that. I'm going to continue using the terms I'm using. Yes, when I say West, Europe is a part of the West. Western Europe is. South America is not. You talked about the wonderful Venezuelan situation. What about people who knew where he has been at this specific moment? Who? Anyway, that's just the situation at play. First pictures have been released of former Venezuelan president, well, current Venezuelan president, Nicolas Maduro. It's so funny that they have these, like, this is a DEA op, like as though there is any validity. Like, this is a serious drug bust, guys. Serious question. What do you think Charlie Kirk would have thought about this? He'd be basting his face off, dude. R.I.P. Charlie Kirk. He would have loved American imperialism in Venezuela. He would have loved it. Is there going to be full-scale military occupation in Venezuela? It depends. Okay? It fucking depends. It depends on exactly what I described earlier. He also is a mogger. Have you guys noticed that? He's tall as fuck. He's mogging everybody, dude.
Good night. Happy New Year.
Why'd they drip him out? Because he's fucking dripped out, dude. Why does he keep wearing different clothes? I don't know. They keep putting more jackets on him. Yo, it's because, you know what it is? It's because he knows there's a lot of cameras around. So he's just trying to fire off as many fit pics as possible. You know what I mean? That's what it is. He said, oh, it's winter time. Now we can really start dressing, okay? He's looks maxing. He's actually fit maxing. A lot of you don't understand. He's aura farming, and he's trying to get as many different fit pics as possible from the same photo shoot, basically, okay? That way you get to see him in so many different outfits. First in the Nike Tech. Well, first in the pajamas, then in the Nike Tech, then in this blue getup here, which wasn't his best. And then last but not least in the puffer. He didn't pack his Timbs? No. I had the same great Nike Tech fleece on today and I legit had to go home and change. Wait, why? Chat, is this tough? That's what he's saying here. He's saying, chat, do I look tough? Chat, do I have aura? W's in the chat, please. What's on his head? I don't know. Maybe like I can't tell what it is. It's like maybe a beanie? I don't know. Maybe a balaclava? W-Mog. 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 It will take years for serious export capacity of Venezuela oil. Oh, man. Trump kidnapped Maduro to ask him to be our president. Bro got the same hat as Cardi in the Evil Jordan video. Oh, also, MTG outflanking everybody again. I've served on a Homeland Security Committee for the past 3 years. I'm 100% for strong, safe, secure borders and stopping narco-terrorists and cartels from trafficking deadly drugs and human trafficking in America. Fentanyl is responsible for 70% of drug overdose deaths, and fentanyl comes from Mexican cartels made with chemical precursors from China and trafficked across the U.S.-Mexico border. She's right. Trafficked by American citizens, by the way. Mexican cartels are primarily and overwhelmingly responsible for killing Americans with deadly drugs. If U.S. military action and regime change in Venezuela was really about saving American lives from deadly drugs, then why hasn't Trump taken action against Mexican cartels? Okay, never mind. I feel like she's just saying, hey, why don't we, kill Mexicans too? I know you want to be out here killing Venezuelans and stuff, but we should kill Mexicans instead. And if prosecuting narco-terrorists is a high priority, then why did President Trump pardon former Honduran President Juan Orlando Hernandez, who was convicted and sentenced for 45 years for trafficking hundreds of tons of cocaine into America? Okay, true, girl, goddamn, true fact stated. The next obvious observation is that by removing Maduro, this is a clear move for control over Venezuelan oil supplies that will ensure stability for the next obvious regime change war with Iran. And of course, why is it okay for America to militarily invade, bomb, and arrest a foreign leader, but Russia is evil for invading Ukraine and China is bad for aggression against Taiwan? Is it only okay if we do it? I'm not endorsing Russia or China. Regime change, funding foreign wars, and America's tax dollars being consistently funneled to foreign causes, foreigners both home and abroad, and foreign governments while America's... Wait, does she even call Maduro a tyrant here? Regime change, funding foreign wars, and America's tax dollars being consistently funneled into foreign causes, foreigners both home and abroad, and foreign governments while Americans are consistently facing increasing costs of living, housing, healthcare, and learn about scams and fraud of their tax dollars is what has most Americans enraged, especially the younger generations. Boomers and half of Gen X will cheer on neocon wars and talking points, but the other half of Gen X and majority on down see it through and hate it. See through it and hate it. America's disgust with our own government's never-ending military aggression and support of foreign wars is justified because we are forced to pay for it, and both parties, Republicans and Democrats, always keep the Washington military machine funded and going. This is what many in MAGA thought they voted to end. Boy, we were wrong. As the baby boomers slip away both in our votes and power, the electoral future will be decided by candidates that focus on American economic populism and oh my God. Than Kamala Harris. How is that possible? Why are Democrats getting outflanked by Marjorie Taylor Greene? Oh my lordy!
Being held in custody.
We're so
until
fucking
he awaits
cooked.
trial. Of course,
bro. Did she get hit with the reverse Fetterman, Ray? What the fuck? What is happening? It's crazy because Republicans are just better at propaganda, right? And I think that's part of the reason why Marjorie Taylor Greene is more effective at communicating a point of disagreement with the Trump administration than any Democrat can. because she understands what the anxieties are. She understands what the anger is, where the resentment is coming from. So she's capable of crafting a better message than Chuck Schumer ever could, because Chuck Schumer is so worried about like being at the table when these kinds of decisions are being made, because Chuck Schumer ultimately agrees with Donald Trump on this stuff. It's actually pretty crazy to see. Yeah, that's why, as Van Lathan says, Marjorie Taylor King. I'm not going to say that, of course. You know, we have our disagreements on
Center
that.
in Brooklyn, where he will await his trial.
So we don't expect to see him tomorrow.
No, we don't expect that he'll make any public appearances. Again, this is all up to the judge, but we don't expect that the judge will have any hearings at least until Monday. Again, it's all up to the judge, and at this point we have not yet seen anything on the docket to indicate this, but again, we're waiting to see that, and that is most likely when he will make his first court appearance, his first public appearance, and we'll see him hear for the first time the exact charges that he and his wife are facing.
Yeah, and I still think one huge question is who is going to represent him? And do we know if they would have the same attorney, Evan, or how does that, would they have different attorneys? How does that work?
No. Yeah, no, we have not yet seen that. We haven't seen any information of who might be representing him. We expect that we're going to see that perhaps tomorrow. We're going to get some information about that tomorrow. Obviously, as Ellie was pointing out, Nicolas Maduro, at least according to the U.S. government, has a lot of resources at his disposal. The U.S., of course, has put a lot of sanctions on those resources. But, part of the process here in the United States is that the U.S. government is not allowed to essentially make you not able to afford a defense. And so that's one of the things that we expect to see argued in the coming days is how does he get to pay for a lawyer, for a legal defense for him and his wife. That's, again, obviously something that's going to unfold in the next few days.
Evan, is it safe to say he's now officially a prisoner of the U.S. government now that he's inside that facility?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think he became a prisoner of the United States when the FBI agents who were part of that special operations force that went in to Caracas, that's the moment that he was placed under arrest. That process, of course, then they brought him to the Iwo Jima and then to Guantanamo, where they transferred him to a plane. And so it's been a series of different transports in the custody of the United States. So that process began several hours ago.
Yeah, Evan Perez, obviously we're going to continue to stay with you as we are watching this play out. And for those who are just joining us, we are watching a remarkable scene play out live before our very eyes here in New York City tonight, where Nicolas Maduro, the man who ruled Venezuela for more than a dozen years, is now a prisoner of the U.S. government, as the almost 34 million people who lived under his reign are left wondering who is running their country. The president says for the time being it is going to be the United States that is running Venezuela, he says, with a group.
What does that
mean? A lot
mean?
of questions about the details of what that's going to look like. But we've been watching the former leader of Venezuela, the ousted leader, just outside New York City.
Think about how insane that conversation is. A nation state with 34 million people. And we're just like, yeah, we decapitated the leadership. I mean, we didn't kill him, but like we kidnapped the leader. And we just kind of left them to themselves for the time being. We're just going to run it. Like, what does that even fucking mean? It's just so insane.
Moment. Something that, there have been real questions of what was going to happen. The president said earlier that he shouldn't have been surprised, Maduro or anyone else, because of the large U.S. military buildup in the Caribbean.
PBS. That's
and
right.
now we're seeing this moment.
The Piker Broadcasting Service is sponsored by you, the viewers, for you, the viewers. If you would like to know what will happen tomorrow, the Piker Broadcasting Service is here for you. If you would like to understand what's happening today, the Piker Broadcasting Service is for you. If you'd like to understand what happened yesterday, PBS is here for you. PBS is sponsored by you, the viewers, for you, the viewers. Thank you.
And his wife were going to bring them to the United States and subject them to trial in our civilian criminal courts is really a remarkable.
No, you're driving me to drink by cutting your beautiful curls off. I mean, it's fine. I'm gonna cut it a little bit. I didn't realize there's like hella people that love the hair. That's crazy. Open Presents, thank you for the 25 gifted subs. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, the Parker Broadcasting Service is sponsored by you, the viewers, for you, the viewers. Thank you.
Well, as you're looking at this, and we're talking about the legal process and what plays out, and Ellie said courts are perfectly capable of handling this. You can see the massive crowd that has been gathered outside there that Evan was reporting on earlier. The other question is the U.S. military capable? Is the U.S. itself capable of running Venezuela?
The Trump administration is so crazy that I can see them literally sending ICE over there to like deport these guys. You know what I mean? A bit of a, we need Korean, we need the Korean funding to build factories and then only to send ICE to the Korean factory to deport all the Korean workers type situation. You know what I mean? Which is, of course, you know, not going to stop people from still acting as though these guys are actually doing this with some kind of like pro-Venezuelan opinion in mind. But
so the scorecard here is very uneven in that sense of what our reputation is.
Stop manifesting. I mean, that would still obviously be completely unacceptable for the record before people, you know, make no mistake.
And I also think that it's not just military, it's political, which, you know, why I think the President of the United States, having thrown the Democratic-elected government basically under the bus, made a mistake. This is not a strong suit of the United States. It's not also what you want as a detour of our resources, given what we have to deal with in Ukraine with Russia's war, Gaza Strip, in that area, that now the same people are going to be running this. This is going to be a massive undertaking for a President of the United States that ran under the banner of America First and no nation building.
Yeah, and Rob,
it's going to be
we saw that
very testing.
It's a huge test. I mean, I don't think anyone knows what the next 24 hours, 48 or year looks like on this. But I want to show you, because we saw that remarkable picture of Nicolas Maduro on board the USS Iwo Jima earlier. He was wearing the sweatsuit, the blinders, the noise insulating headphones. We now just have a video of Maduro inside U.S. custody. I want everyone to just stop and watch that for a moment.
I don't understand why the fuck do we have why the fuck do we care about what Rahm Emanuel has to say? It's because he wants to run for president.
I mean, Rahm Emanuel, as you're watching this video where Maduro is being transported through, you can see the DEA carpet that he's walking across, going very slowly. He seems to say something. It's not totally clear what. And a little bit of a smile almost at one point as he's walking. Rahm Emanuel, what do you see in this?
Your guess, I got to be honest, Caitlin, your guess is as good as mine. I think this is an attempt by the United States to project, here's what we've done to this leader. I think what you're looking at is a guy who's basically being used in this moment to send a message to the American people, and also not only the American people, the worldwide, that if the United States wants to act, we can act, and we can literally go into a country, take somebody out in that effort. So I think it was basically.
I mean, I think he's saying Happy New Year there at the end. As I watch this, as he's walking through.
Yeah. I mean, I got to be honest, I can't tell what he's saying. I think the reason the United States wanted to film this and then put it out is for the very purpose to send a message around the world, as well as the domestic audience here. That is a political decision of why to communicate that is what he said. Your guess is as good as mine. I do think, you know, it's also a statement in that story of here you have this guy. This was a flawless exercise by the United States military and a flawless exercise by the American intelligence. We're on the 4-year anniversary of the war with Russia, where it was supposed to be 4 weeks, showing that their military can't do what the...
Bro, it kind of, when you put it side by side like that, it kind of feels like we're just jealous that Russia did it and we wanted a piece of the action, you know? Like, how come they do it? We should show them how to do a real special military exercise, you know?
Or taking note of what the United States
It's like, oh, they get to have all the fun over there in Ukraine. Why not us?
The legal ramifications, the reputational ramifications. A lot of people just saw the American military.
You said we didn't take the land
yet. A flawless capability. That's what I think. When I look at that picture, that's a message around the world, just saying something to leaders that are now in their national security apparatuses, Caitlin, are stamping back and going, "What we got to take a score here of what, and a measure of what the United States military pulled off." I do think
Yeah.
The second part of that picture, and I'll be real quick on this, basically the pawns for Russia and China have been Syria, Venezuela, Cuba in this situation, and also Iran. And every one of those governments, either the head of state, the country itself, the government is on its back heels, a failed state, or have been deposed in both Syria and Venezuela. The pawns for Russia and China have just been diminished. And that's a statement that the leaders of those big countries can't stand by you. I do think America's reputation took a massive hit here beyond the legal consequences.
It's pretty crazy to say, like, these are pawns for Russia and China, by the way, because the only reason why any of these countries actually look for other allies is because they've been forcibly excised from participating in the global marketplace by the United States of America, due to ideological differences or due to any attempts at sovereignty over their own natural resources. So just make no mistake, whenever people say, like, oh, these guys are fucking allies of USSR or allies of Russia and China, that is the reason. Oh my God, Charitable Chinchilla is back. Does this actually prove that the American military is clearly better than Russia, or it's an apples to oranges comparison? Yo! The fucking Mormon ROTC. Charitable Chinchilla is back.
Well, and President Trump was asked about that premise
Oh,
by
no.
my colleague Kevin earlier.
All right, 2026, we're back, baby.
Mixed history of when it comes to. But hold on.
Yeah,
Rob, because,
Neek Skit, or whatever the fuck his name was originally.
I just have got to play this video again. It is basically,
Yapıyorsun?
I don't think this is a legal term. It's a perp walk that we're
Thank
watching
you.
of Nicolas Maduro here inside the United States custody. The White House has just shared this photo where he appears to say Happy New Year. It sounded like to me, Beth.
He's back and immediately starts asking dumb questions.
As you watch that.
Yeah. Hey, Neek Skit or Charitable Chinchilla, is it that big of a surprise to you that the United States of America has, better military capabilities than any other country on the planet? Really? This is the confusing part for you? Yeah, of course America has better fucking striking and precise targeting capabilities than any other country on the planet. What the fuck? God damn, dude.
Pedrino, the Interior Minister Rodriguez, the Vice President. I think they also have indictments against them. So, this is your future.
Also, the Russia American person in that situation is kind of silly too, because like,
I also wanted to make a very quick point about evidence. If this is like the Osama bin Laden raid, the military probably picked up a lot of computers and cell phones and documents.
All right, Jeff is here. He's gonna cut my hair, Chad.
I don't know if they're admissible in court, but we could have gotten quite a bit of information out of this extraction.
Yeah, and clearly they had a lot of intelligence going into it in terms of Nicolas Maduro.
It's not going to be easy. Chevy Chase is exciting and talented. He had massive movie star hits.
And then he went downhill from there. It was a mistake to leave